Right. We are supposed to be live now. I guess we need to test. I mean, I don't know. When was the last time we were on? Like 2 weeks ago? We
I
skipped
can't
another
remember.
week.
Yeah, I can't remember how long ago. Look at there. I have already dropped the ball. I am
Dropping the ball right off the
dropping
bat.
the
Hey,
ball.
I got a YouTube notification, so I think we're live on you. Oh, let's see. What else? Are we live on Facebook yet? Anyway, yes, we are.
Well, I see the number climbing, so there must be a few folks tuning in.
I
Yep,
hope
there
I
that
hope
number's climbing.
somebody tunes in. If we keep skipping weeks like that, people are going to start saying, "What are these rabble rousers up to?"
Well, there's always other, blogs or, shows that folks can go watch. I mean, you know,
Well, and look,
they're
we have encouraged since nearly day one. Well, maybe not day one, but we have encouraged other people to step up to the plate and push content out there, whether it's through blogs like Jeff Sadow's articles, or whether it's other. Well, everybody keeps calling them podcasts, and I guess it's like calling every soft drink a Coke. You just want to call it a podcast. Technically, they're not podcasts unless they're
well,
audio only. But here I go again,
well,
digressing
well,
on the tech
Sadow was
stuff.
well, Sadow, he was calling us a narrowcast, and for the longest time, I was like, man, he's insulting us. I don't get
No,
that.
I
And
think
then,
technically
and
it
then
was correct.
he was absolutely technically correct. And then I looked up the technical definition, and yeah, actually, I think we are a narrowcast.
Well, and of course, technically, what we do is some people call it vidcast. I mean, I just call it a live video because, well, that's what it is. But I guess after the fact, it's not live. But anyway, so we're just sitting here, you folks. Y'all know how the deal goes. We're sitting here giving everybody a few minutes to get their notifications and see that we actually are live this week. So we appreciate everybody that's watching so far. I see Val Baker is in the comments. Mike and Judy Dillingham. Audrey Hall is from North Arkansas. What part of North Arkansas are you in, Audrey? I used to live in Mountain Home for a couple of years. Tabitha Bruce. And Larry James Hawkins is also up there, so glad to have y'all watching. Make sure and tag and share this out too, by the way.
Hey, so Rex, we're going to cover a lot of ground tonight, and I know in a minute I know you've been dying to know what I've been doing since we haven't been on Bossier Watch in so long. But tonight, what all are we going to talk about? I mean, we're going to cover some
Oh,
ground, right?
well, yeah, I mean, my little outline there, of course, I'm sliding into home plate at the last minute as usual on the notes and trying to update everything. But I got to tell you, I'm almost sick of talking about water and Bossier City water, but there's some other information that everybody needs to consider. Now, the city council's already voted on it, so it's a done deal. And, Eric from the Caddo Port deal gets to laugh all the way to the bank, and so does Queen David and all that. But we still need to keep an
Oh,
eye on.
you rebel rouser! You rebel rouser! You're spreading misinformation.
Well, all right. So hold on just a second. So let me get let me get the screenshots pulled up. So we're gonna address this right off the bat. Then we'll do our countdown and all that. Hold on a second. Hold the
No,
presses
no,
here.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. Everybody's probably wondering why is this guy juggling a baseball? Oh, wait a minute. Okay.
All right. So we'll get to the baseball here in just a second. But this is the Google definition of a rabble rouser. It's a person who speaks with the intention of inflaming the emotions of a crowd of people, typically for political reasons. Similes would be an agitator, troublemaker, instigator, agent provocateur, or mischief maker. I'd say that pretty much defines us to a T. What say you, Mr. Duke Lowry?
I think it's about like a narrowcast. Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
that is an
I am
accurate description.
I am wearing this with a badge of honor. I am so glad, and let me show you where it came from. I am so glad. Let me pull this up on the screen.
Now
I
wait a
am so
minute. Wait a
glad
minute.
that
Or-
Wes, hold on. I am so glad that Wes called us rabble rousers, or I'll assume, which is a dangerous word, he was referring to us keeping watch on the city and not Batman.
Oh, I'm already getting messaged. All right.
Didn't take long.
We ain't even. I'm already getting messaged. So now look, Wes. A lot of folks may not know who Wes is. Now Wes comes on the show and he watches the show and he's in the comments. I
Yeah.
mean, I like Wes. I've met Wes. Now Wes, uh, and their show did say that we don't ever recognize them, Rex.
What? We have
I heard
encouraged.
it. I watched it.
Well, now I'm trying to think back. I'll tell you what, we'll go, let's go to the break and do our little
So
intro and countdown and all that. But I got to think back while we're
no, wait a
doing that.
minute. Hold up. I got to stop for a second. I got to stop for
Okay.
a second.
Okay.
I didn't know it was a competition.
Well,
Is
I
it?
didn't either. We've encouraged other people to step up to the plate, and to their credit, they've stepped up to the plate.
That's right. They have. And I think they've done a good job.
Yeah.
By their own admission, they don't cover politics, But
Right.
I mean, look, have you not helped other people to be able to, coordinate social media stuff to where they're able to get information out there? Have you not done that? Have you not
Yes.
volunteered
Yes, I
free?
volunteer behind the scenes. I mean, those guys down there on the sidewalk, I've helped them technically some and all that, or given them some advice. And so, we're freely sharing the information. We are about open
But
dissemination of information. How about that?
but somehow or another, I'm not sure that Rebel Rousers was meant to be a positive review of us. I don't think that was the
Oh,
intent. I may be wrong.
I take it very positively. But we'll talk about the exception that I have to the word chagrin here in a moment. So let's go ahead and do our countdown. Folks, for those of you that are watching, you all know the deal here. We're going to do a 2.5, 3 minute countdown. That gives you all time to share and tag this out, grab something to drink. You actually have enough time to microwave some popcorn if you want to. And then let's dive right into the word chagrin and all the other water topics and everything else we got to talk about tonight. What do you say, Mr. Lowry?
Roll with it.
All right, here we go. Countdown, folks. We'll be right back. Share, tag, text, all that good stuff. We'll be right back.
Just, they feel helpless. They don't feel heard. They have nowhere to turn.
In all honesty, we try to lay low a little bit because of the fear that we would not be able to camp there.
And I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Hello everybody. I don't think I've ever done a video before on here, but yeah, I wanted to tell y'all what frustrates me a little bit about permits.
Cockroach of the week is, drumroll please, Allie Feaster Smith.
We can't be apathetic about what's going on in our state. We have to all pull up our bootstraps and get on top of this. So you're right. There's a problem out there. I mean, and man, you can see it everywhere.
Well, look, we have allowed government to become our wherewithal to everything.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
You're about to be killed by SMBOD, or you're gonna die in 5 minutes.
This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by David B. Womack for all your contracting and construction needs. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting is an IWTP customized training provider with over 25 years of success to show for it. Call them for a free consultation today. Pelican Training and Consulting matches employers with 50-plus employees with training dollars. SmarterGeek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So I guess, let me make sure, can everybody, yeah, everybody can hear me. All right. So I left out an important thing that's going to be in the show. As a matter of fact, well, she's kind of in the show, but we got her sitting back there in the back for now.
Yeah, so we're going let's cover all the topics. I mean, we got so off. I mean, squirrels are running wild. I mean, the dogs chasing rabbits in the yard and the chickens are all hiding. So what is the subject matter of everything tonight? Let's go in order, what we're going to cover.
Okay, so we're going to talk about chagrin and rabble rousing and the water deal with the port after the fact. So we're going to cover some more of that. And what else?
Well, and we have our good friend, Jill Hines, that's going to come on and tell us a little bit of action that needs to be taken in regards to a bill that's currently right now I think it's the Health and Welfare Committee down at the Capitol that all of you should be concerned about. And we're going to pull at your heartstrings a little bit. But water in Bossier City is not the only place that has water problems, Rex. Bellevue water system has some problems.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what the deal is with water these days. I mean, it's like everywhere we look, we're having water issues, and I hope I spelled Bellevue right. It does have an E after the B. I'm trying to do this on the fly, and I think I got Jill's name right. Anyway, so, yeah, it seems like every time we turn around, there's another water problem.
Yeah, and then I'm having to juggle the stupid baseball in this show for some unknown reason. I'm hoping you'll be able to explain why I'm having to juggle a baseball.
I'm not going to be coy about it anymore. I'm so glad that the Sobo Live guys, they actually had a baseball glove, or softball as the case may be, and they had a couple of softballs out on their desk while they were doing the interview. So appreciate the reference, guys, to the softball comment. I'm glad that it got under your skin just a little bit. It's like that billboard that's out there on I-20, live rent-free in their head out there between Industrial Drive and Airline Drive right now. Hopefully we're living rent-free in their heads. And especially the heads of our city councilman friend Chris Smith.
Yeah, so if you're wanting to watch the show about the Bellevue water system, hey, we're going to get to that here in a little bit. And if you're wanting to watch about the Bossier City water misinformation and the rebel rousing and the softballing and baseballing, we're going to get to that. But before we get to all of those things, we're going to go ahead and jump to Jill Hines and, Health Freedom Louisiana, and we're going to, address a call to action regarding a bill that's taken place. And Jill, are you there?
Well, let's see. Let me get her. Let's see. Can you hear us, Jill?
I can hear you.
Okay, so we
got me moving.
Well, we got we got a little bit of lag, but your audio's coming through fine, and that's just a great still shot of you smiling there. So, it's good to go.
Okay, good. We'll work with it.
So Jill, back during the COVID thing, a lot of, and I call it the COVID thing because it is a thing. I mean, it's, I don't know, it's almost undescribable to me, all of the things that took place. And most of it was by our government. And, I try to imagine what it would have been like if I would have been someone who was placed in isolation and that had contracted COVID, placed in isolation, and then ended up dying without ever being able to say goodbye to a loved one, or either I was a family member who had a loved one who got placed in isolation and I was never able to say goodbye to them as well either. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think that was any government mandate. I think that was actually uh, administrators and local health officials, you know, that took those actions on their own. And now I think we've got something that maybe can kind of address that problem. Am I on the right track here with what this bill does?
Yes, somewhat. I think the guidance for these long-term care facilities and hospitals to separate, to keep their loved ones or to keep their residents rather isolated came from national or federal agencies, whether it was the CDC or HHS. They got that guidance. It wasn't, I don't think it was local. Some local people took it upon themselves to allow their loved ones, family members in to see residents, especially after they had been in there for so long. Some of them broke the guidelines and allowed family members to come in, but most of the guidance I think did come from our federal health agencies. And so what HB 291 does is ensure that this never happens again, that our loved ones are never locked up in isolation, that no one is ever forced, because this was not a family's decision. These were decisions made by administration in the hospitals and long-term care facilities. These individuals were forced to be isolated against their will. So what HB 291 does is ensure that that never happens again. It will put into statute a designated essential caregiver for everyone that's hospitalized, that's in long-term care facilities, that may be a resident for individuals with mental disabilities. It'll ensure that they'll have access to a designated essential caregiver 24 hours a day. So we know that individuals, end of life events don't happen from 9 to 5. We know that women don't give birth from 9 to 5. So we want people in the hospitals to have access to a designated essential caregiver 24 hours a day. And this is what HB 291 ensures, is that no one is left to suffer and to die alone.
Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm going to share the screen, and this is the explain this page, or what this is about. This form that people can submit.
Sure. We've really kind of done the work for you. If you'd like to contact the members of the Health and Welfare Committee, the bill is going to be in committee this Thursday. The hearing is at 9 o'clock down at the Capitol. And so we've really kind of done the work for you. We've created written a letter. All you have to do is input your name and address, and it will send this send this letter to the legislators on the committee. It does give you the option too to add a personal message. So if you were in this situation, if you were forced to be separated from your loved one for a long term, let these committee members know about it. They need to hear these personal stories. For instance, Duke, I think I may have mentioned the last time I was on your show, this is personal to us. My brother-in-law last August collapsed at home. This was long after the emergency order here in the state had been, done away with. He collapsed at home, was sent by ambulance to the hospital. He tested positive for COVID at the hospital, and from that point on, my sister and his parents were not allowed to go back and see him. And he passed away later that evening by himself in isolation with nobody around him. So this is personal to us. Of course, I had already asked Representative Chuck Owen to sponsor this legislation, months before this incident happened with my brother-in-law. And he was, as soon as I asked him, he said, absolutely. He was so ready to carry this legislation. He has such a gentle heart and a compassionate heart. He knows how important it is. So what we've done is we've created a message that anybody can put in their name, send it to the committee members, and ask them to pass this bill.
Right. Okay. So, just so everybody knows, I put a link to the form in the comments, and so you can go find it there, and then I'll share out a whole post dedicated to it after the show when I have time.
Thank
Now,
you very
Jill,
much. I
I
appreciate it,
want to make
guys.
sure,
Yes.
Jill, I want to make sure if folks go and they fill your form out, what this does is it'll automatically distribute it to all the members on the Health and Welfare Committee, correct?
It does. We have included the link to the official email address for the committee. So it's the committee members and it's the official email address. So if you send it tonight or anytime before noon tomorrow, it will be distributed to all members of the committee. It'll be basically an official document in front of that committee if you send it in before noon tomorrow. Of course, you can send it in afternoon tomorrow and it'll just go to the committee members. Their deadline is noon the day prior to the committee meeting to send in letters that go on the official record. But the committee members will get it if you send it afternoon tomorrow. But if you can, send it before noon. We've done the work for you. All you have to do is input your name and address. And if you want to personalize it, you can add a personal message to it and then just hit send and it goes on its way.
Okay, and so David Womack's asking a question. I'll put it up there. Are the committee members listed there? I don't see that it lists them, but it automatically sends it to them, David. So just to be clear, which is what
it should list them somewhere. I know.
Okay.
Yeah, on the test, it gave me a couple of the members. It may not show all because there's like 20 members on that committee.
Right.
But it will go to the committee members, and then it'll go to the official committee email address as well.
Okay, good deal. Well, we encourage everybody to go online. Again, I'll put the link in the comments for now and fill this out and hit submit.
Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jill.
All right, have fun.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
So, folks, look, let's take a step back. If your wife or one of your kids, everybody watching, if it was your wife, one of your kids, your parents that they isolated, wouldn't allow you to see, I mean, and maybe they said maybe it was, it's a risk to your life to be able to see them. Would you want to be able to have the option to take that risk? Shouldn't it be your choice to be able to take that risk? Or should it be, some pencil neck geek out of Washington, D.C. or Baton Rouge that makes that decision for you? I mean, I personally, I want that choice. It should be my choice. It's not, I mean, if one of my kids, I want to be there.
Yeah, and look, I mean, even in the situation where maybe they're in ICU or they're real susceptible to, contamination or diseases or something like that, and so, maybe they have them in isolation, or maybe you are required or take the choice to wear a mask if you want to for whatever reasons. You should still have that choice to go see them. I was fortunate during the whole COVID deal that I wasn't in that situation. But I have several friends and customers, as a matter of fact, that were put in that situation where their loved ones were in the hospital and passed away, and they couldn't go see them.
So, what, Rex, guys, this is something easy for you to do. The link is right there. You don't have to get out of your recliner. You can right there on your phone. You can literally with your thumbs, you can sit right there and you can take this political action, that you can do something. You can be effective. You can do something.
Yeah.
It doesn't require you. It's not requiring you to go knock on doors and collect signatures and not eat dinner. It doesn't require you to sacrifice your business and your time. It doesn't require you to be begging other people to help you to a political end that will, end up helping them individually. No, it's none of those hard things. It's not. It's right here. You guys can do it and be effective.
Even you politicians can do it. I mean, it's not like Duke said, not like you have to put on a pair of tennis shoes and go actually walk around neighborhoods. You can do this online if you happen to be a politician watching.
And and the reason I say that, Rex, is because earlier you asked me, cut three, feelings. You asked me earlier, you said, well, what about the term limit thing, Duke? How's that going? How you feel about it?
Yeah, let me get over
And
here to this. Hold on a
and
second. We'll get
I
back to
gotta
chagrin here in a minute, but here we go.
yeah, I gotta tell you, and this brings to mind, exactly how I feel about term limits.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, everybody wants to, and look, I'm guilty of it too, I'll say, but everybody wants to help until it's time to actually get your hands dirty, roll up your sleeves, and help.
Eh, I mean, I gotta tell you, I mean, it's like you're asking for somebody to turn your bank account over to them to help. It is, and
Right.
and I got to tell you, I am really disappointed in a lot of people. And I mean, I don't know. The moral of the story is that people say a lot. They say they will do a lot of things, and they just don't do it.
Yeah.
They just
Well,
don't do it.
look,
I,
our good friend,
I'm
mysterious Mark Smith, is in the crowd. He says, or maybe they don't really want it. I gotta say, maybe he's right.
It's not that, Mark, because I can tell
No,
you
people are
when you
lazy.
go to the people are lazy, but when you go to the doors of people, and
Mm.
and this
Eh,
overwhelmingly they
Yeah,
want it. It's not that
it's
at
a no
all.
it's a no-brainer. It's the people that don't want to get their shoes dirty or hands dirty per se, out there walking the neighborhoods. Hint, hint, local politicians that I'm not going to name just yet, but you know who you are.
Yeah. So
Everybody, they want the people to come to them so they can just sit there and hand out a form, not the other way around. And that's not the way that it really works, unfortunately. Okay, enough of that soapbox. Let me get the picture
yeah,
of
enough of
Mel
that.
Gibson off of there before we get banned from Facebook again or cut off.
Well, hey, and also, I look, Rex, I've been Christmas shopping for you. Did you know that? It's a little early in
Oh,
the year, but I've
no,
been Christmas shopping for you.
I didn't realize that. That was
And
so thoughtful of you, Duke.
and I'm going to go ahead, and I think I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share with everybody what I'm thinking about getting you for Christmas.
Well, you've got two gifts in here. You have cut one and cut two. Which one would you like for me to show?
Well, cut one is the actual gift, and then cut two is actually the details regarding the gift. I mean,
Oh,
this is
well,
high
that's
achieving. I'm going to tell you.
hey, I like that. That's a toilet with LED lights, the Apple logo, and is it one of those bidets? One of those ones that sprays your butt?
Well, that costs extra, in which we're
Oh,
on a budget
mm.
here. But you being the Apple fanatic that you are, I mean, surely you don't already have one of these, right?
No, not yet, but this is pretty intriguing.
I
It,
mean,
it needs
well,
it
look,
needs one of those little what's that thing they call the squatty potty or whatever deal? You know, the little step deal that you put your feet up on. You've seen those on Facebook and like advertised everywhere.
well, what's intriguing about this, and you being the Apple guy and the data guy, is the feedback that this thing gives you. I mean, it literally gives you a detailed report. Go to cut two. It's unbelievable.
Well, let's just see what cut two has. I mean, I can't believe it gets any better than that. But Apple iPoop has detected that you lost 3.2 kilograms on your last bleep. Would you like nutritional data? You're really trying to get us kicked off of the live feed tonight. But that's okay.
I'm trying hard. I mean, you're not going to see this on a sidewalk or a Sobo live show, right?
Apparently not, and they stay online too.
Oh, wait a minute.
Like,
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't ever give no credit to any other shows. So
yeah,
I made a mistake there. I
yeah.
said
Don't
those
start
nasty
now. Why
words.
break the trend? All right. Let me switch screens again. I'm going back and forth. I'm trying to. Michael Bell says he filled out. Michael Bell. Michael Ferris says that he filled out the form. Thank you. Let's see. Linda and Wayne Whittington Villamoret. I hope I said that right. Filled out and sent the form while watching. Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right,
right.
so Mark Smith, it's slow news day. He's bored. He's ready to move on, and I agree with him,
Well,
Mark. So how about we move on to the Bellevue water system? What do you think?
yeah, we can do that. Because, I mean, we hadn't exactly caught up since last week, but almost, and we had Jill on already, and, well, we're talking about water. Let's get into Bellevue.
Well, I don't care. We can go to Bossier City or we can go to Bellevue. I don't know. What does everybody want?
Flip a
Mark
coin.
Smith, what do you want? Do you want to talk about Bossier City or do you want to talk about, we'll leave it to Mark Smith, everybody, Bellevue or Bossier City? Which one do you want to talk about?
Well, huh. Wait a minute. Wait, we can't do that one because that'll get us dinged, but I can play this music in the background. There we go.
Waiting on Mark Smith.
So we have a vote from Tabitha for Bellevue. We're
Nothing
gonna
from
sit there
Mark yet, huh?
Yeah, sit there and toss the baseball around. Not a softball. You're gonna hit the keyboard in a minute. Bellevue from Tracy.
Well,
All right.
I hit the mic already.
Yeah, let's go to Bellevue.
All right. Bellevue it is then. Mark is too slow.
All right. So,
All right.
lead me along here. What do I need to do as far as screenshots? And full disclosure, of course, I did not go to the meeting. I was out fishing, helping the junior kids. So you're going to have to, as usual, educate me on what's going on with the Bellevue water system.
Okay. So Rex, as you recall, I mean, I guess it was last week sometime, we got an email and somebody said, Bellevue Water System is having their annual meeting coming up this weekend, and the Consolidated Waterworks Sewer District, aka the Bossier Parish Police Jury, was trying to take over the Bellevue water system. You might want to be there. So, I ain't got nothing else in the world to do, so I said, hey, I think I'll ride out there and go see what's going on.
Oh, it sounds so exciting. Now, in full disclosure, I mean, the Bossier Parish Police Jury hasn't made any bones about it. They're absolutely trying to take over all these smaller water systems. I mean, Butch Ford said so in an open public meeting up at Cypress District, of all places.
Oh yeah, it's no secret to anybody. Right. I mean, but I think, and I heard someone else say they didn't necessarily have a problem with what they were doing. The problem was with how they were going about doing it.
Oh, yeah, that's usually the problem.
So, cut 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can have them ready to go in that order. So, Bellevue's gonna have the annual meeting right out at none other than Bell Park Baptist Church. And a lot of folks may not know where Bell Park Baptist Church is, but Bell Park is a little rural church that is out close to Bodcall, right down the street from where the original county seat of Bossier Parish was in Bellevue back before it was moved to Benton. And very rural area. And Rex, I would point out, this is the church where I grew up in as a kid, and actually the church where I was baptized in. Huh. So this is my people, and this is kind of where I came from.
Oh, so learning something new every day.
This was something of personal interest. Now, granted, it's grown up a whole lot from the days of when I was there. And, as you can see by that picture of the parking lot when I came in for out there, I mean, man, that's a packed parking lot. There was a lot of people there. So get in and, I think,
let's see, I'm going to go to cut 5 or let's see, cut.
Yeah, well, the cut 5 isn't so much significant as, this was just kind of after a lot of the debate, negotiations, deliberations, and all that. And everybody was kind of waiting on the votes counting the votes. That was one picture of the audience. And this is them up there counting the votes. And in the very center of the screen right there, just to the left of the goal the basketball goal there, you will see the attorney. I think it was Gray Kitchens from the Kitchens law firm, who was the attorney or the contract attorney for the Bellevue Water District. Not this, I don't think this board had contracted him, but I think the previous board had contracted him, but he was the attorney. And I'm going to explain what the significance of that is in just a little while. So
Okay.
when you get there and you walk into the building, they're handing out, this document, and on that document, it's got a little bit of information. And I think I may have put, it may be cut 7. I don't remember what cut.
All right. Well, let's see. Let me pull that one over here and see what it says. Is that
And I
it?
think you're gonna, yeah, that one's it. That one's it right there. As you walk in the door, this is a document that's being handed out, and basically, and again, I'm going to come back and I'm going to explain what these. I'm going to pull it up because I can't read that. If I can't read
Well,
it, I know looking at it can't read it.
so I can read it. You want me to go ahead and read it out for you?
No, because I'm going to try
Okay.
to get through it pretty fast. But
Okay.
basically, it just says that they're, Bellevue water sector application, 74% federally funded, 26% local match. Water sector grant for Bellevue Water includes $850,000 in acquisition cost and $228,000 for connections into parish water system and miscellaneous repairs. Next paragraph says the acquisition costs could be used to pay down Bellevue water system debt, estimated to be about $700,000 to $800,000, including $77,000 owed to the parish for emergency water supply during the ice storm in December. And it doesn't say when, but that was December of 22, just a few months ago.
Okay.
So remember those numbers. It's saying estimated 700 to 800,000, 77,000 owed to the parish for emergency water during those freezes, and 850,000, from a grant.
Okay.
So that was being handed out. The other thing that they handed out a kind of a picture of a map. I think I scanned it in, cut 8, which was
Okay.
just a map of the local districts around that area, right? And it nothing of significance there. So as you can see, the red, I think, is Bossier City. And look at that
Yeah.
line going up the river all the way up to Benton.
Let me see if I can adjust that a little bit here. Hold on just a second. That's a little bit better, but anyway.
Yeah, horrible picture. The Bossier City is in red. The green is the city of Benton. The yellow is the Cypress, Black Bayou water, or not. It's not the recreation area thing, but it's the
All right.
water system up there,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting thing as well too. So right here, you see the blue, Rex, that little system. I'm pretty confident that little blue system is or was part of the or that was
Consolidated Water
the
District.
yeah, it is, but it was part of, I think, the Logan system, all that, that they got from the Logans down. I think that was what that was, but if you or Country Place is in there somewhere too. Anyway, if you keep going just a little bit northeast right there, you'll see it's not lighted, but that whole line that strings up along Red Chute Bayou all the way up to Bodcall, that's the Bellevue water system. And there's a lot of folks that live out there, and that's primarily off of Bellevue Road. Very rural, uh, I got a lot of memories up and down Bellevue Road. So the meeting was called to order, and this meeting was pretty amazing. It was unlike any meeting I've probably been to. The attorney for the board identified himself, Mr. Kitchens, and said that he was contracted by the board, and
Okay.
he was there to conduct the meeting. Now, Gray Kitchens is a part of the Kitchens law firm. Now, where have we
Yeah.
heard of the Kitchens law firm before?
That sounds so familiar. What's that guy that walks on water? Not Jesus. Mike Johnson.
Well, Mike Johnson was a part of the Kitchens law firm. I don't know that he is anymore now that he's
Okay.
walking on water in Washington. But I can tell you, one of his cohorts, who is an assistant city attorney for Bossier City and is an assistant or was an assistant ADA, also is a part still of the Kitchens law firm.
Oh, will that be
So,
our friend Richard Ray?
then none other than Richard.
Ah, okay.
So there's nothing nefarious about that.
Right.
I mean, it's just making connections, figuring out connections. But the Kitchens law firm, is said to have been a part of the other acquisitions, like the village water system acquisitions. They supposedly have had a hand in these other water deals. Now, how is it? It makes me wonder, how is it that they ended up, or he or the Kitchens firm with Greg Kitchens ended up being there to run the meeting for the Bellevue system when the parish is trying to take over? It's kind of one of those things that makes you scratch your head. It
Well,
doesn't make any sense.
yeah, but I mean, it's not like a vampire thing. Or, well, I guess it is like a vampire thing. I assume they invited him in.
Yeah. So he gets up there, and I thought he was doing a good job. I really
Right.
did. He explains that he would be the parliamentarian for the board, and he was going to conduct the meeting. Like, hey, I mean, I
Okay.
kind of was sitting there thinking, you know what, these folks, they're forward thinking here. They got them an attorney to come in to be a parliamentarian, going to run the meeting. I mean,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah. I was like, man, this is going to go in the right direction. This is going good. So he proceeded with normal business type things. He's taken some reports from some committees, and then they ended up letting Butch Ford come up and speak to the members.
Butch
And
Ford guys everywhere.
he's everywhere. So, I mean, see, I bit my tongue. I was going to say something that wasn't nice, and I stopped. So Butch, he gets up there and he starts talking, and he's you know, talking about that, they kind of had plans, and he was going to take some questions or whatever. He explained that, the police jury was owed by the district $77,000. And that was during the freeze in December of 2022, just a few months ago. Apparently, the Bellevue system had, a line break, or either somebody accidentally opened a valve and caused the system to lose pressure. Either way, the Bellevue system needed emergency water because they didn't have any water. They went several days, as I understand it, without water. And if y'all recall, I think there were a lot of places across the parish that had emergency need for water during that time. But, today, the emergency water that was given to the Bellevue water system was being viewed, in my opinion, and used as, I'm going to just say it the way I feel it, leverage over the Bellevue system to make the vote go one way or the other. And you say, well, how or why is that? Well, because Butch explained that if the members chose to sign on to this deal, all the debt that they had would just magically go away. Poof.
Oh, well, how convenient. That sounds like these other deals that we hear. All profit and not any after operations and maintenance and not any costs and just going to make money. I mean, it's just like our government bodies around here have a printing press, sort of. But anyway, I digress. So, what could be negative about this? They're gonna go or there will be no debt. And Mark Smith says the members are voting to give the system to the police jury. The system is failing, and the police jury is the only option to make it right. What could be wrong with that, dude?
Well, I mean, I think the people in the village system would say, have something to say about a failing system. I mean, it was working all the way up until the point that the police jury took over it.
Yeah, I
And
think the timeline does bear that out. So, what say you about that, mysterious Mark Smith?
He's probably going to say, "Oh, that's still under investigation." That's probably what he would say.
That'd be something that. What's that? What's that silly attorney up there with the police jury's name? Patrick Jackson. That's something Patrick
Okay,
Jackson would say.
so Tabitha says, no, we weren't without water for several days, maybe a day at the most. Okay, well, I was just referencing what I saw. I think it was on the Bellevue Water System Facebook page, which I'm pretty confident that it said 2 days. But anyway, it's not that big of a deal. We're not splitting hairs. So Butch Ford keeps going on, and basically he said that the water came from the police jury, aka the Consolidated Water, system, and from what I understand, you know, there's nothing in writing where there was no commitment of terms, there was no demand for payment or conversation on the cost. There's nothing in writing when, during that emergency that water was delivered. There's nothing. Now, all I know is that there's now a bill. There's a bill for I think it was 7 to 11 truckloads of water that were delivered, and I think that broke out to maybe like $1 a gallon. Which at $1 a gallon, I got to tell you that compared to Bossier City, that's a pretty daggum good price.
Yeah, really good. Maybe we need to start buying bottled water and shipping it to the port.
No, I'm thinking we need to start having more emergencies and just get Butch Ford on the line.
Yeah,
If that's
no
the
kidding.
case, that's what I'm thinking. $1 a gallon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you. How many more trucks you got?
Yeah, no kidding. And I want to clear something up. So, somebody took offense to Michael Ferris mentioned that Jill Hines should be cockroach of the week, and I addressed it in the comments. But I just want to point out, side note here, that cockroach of the week can be a positive reference depending on the context that we use it in and the actions for that. Okay, back to the show in progress. Bellevue Water.
Yeah, definitely. So, Michael Ferris is a longtime watcher and also a sponsor of, Pelican Safety. And so, yeah, definitely you can be a cockroach of the week and definitely be in a good way. It's not always in a bad way.
Now, Mysterious Mark Smith says upgrades cost money, more debt, or police jury bailout. Oh. So our local police jury is in the job of bailing things out. That's pretty cool. But Barry Butler, former police juryman, says the police jury cannot afford any more debt to the water and sewer district. Sure they can, Barry. They're playing with other people's money. They can afford whatever they want to because it's everybody else's money, not theirs. Sure they can.
Well, they, along with the port, have a field of money trees where they're just growing dollars and hundreds left and right. But in their cases, it's millions left and right.
Mm-hmm.
But, and to Mark Smith's point, Mark, there was one point that Mark just said upgrades cost money. Well, Mark, at that meeting, there were actually questions asked regarding the upgrades that would be, put in place in the Bellevue district. And do you know what upgrades were said that would be done?
Roll, please.
There were none. Zero. Nada. None. He said that we have no idea, no upgrades that would be done. All that we will do is simply connect to the system on either end of it, and the system would continue to operate as it is right now. Now, in fairness, he said, after that point, we would have a detailed analysis and we would determine what would need to be done to try to improve it. He did say that. And but he did say that it would continue to operate with the same water wells that it has, with the same system. I mean, and I think that's fair because, it ain't like you can change a system overnight. All those things take time.
Yeah.
But I would have to say, you want to take over the system and you don't even know what it needs. And I mean, that's going to cost money. I mean, just as you point
Oh,
out,
but to borrow a phrase from our infamous federal government, you don't need to see what's in the bill or see what's in the deal. Just sign and pass it. We'll figure that out later.
okay, Mark Smith, great point. And you know what? Look, I hear you. Mark Smith says police jury has COVID money it has to spend, not new debt. Now is the time to improve smaller, outdated systems. Police jury also does not have a water source outside a village.
Hmm.
Okay, you know what? I can wrap my head around that. I can
Yeah.
agree with that. But why didn't you freaking say it? Because you didn't say that. You said $850,000 in grant money. That's what was said. That's what Butch Ford said at the meeting. So somebody in the audience, I don't know who, but somebody in the audience jumped up and they said, no, wait a minute. Is that the same $850,000 that was talked about with the village system? And he conceded the point that the grant money was the same money for the systems that they told Village. You're talking about the same money. Eight hundred fifty
Wait, wait,
thousand
wait, wait,
dollars.
wait. Wait, let me make sure. Slow down for a second and rewind just a bit. Let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly because I'm learning this as we go. You're saying that the same grant money was for two different systems? Am I hearing that correctly?
That was what I understood. And
Okay.
we had the record. I recorded it, and we've
Right.
got the recording. That was the way I understood it. And COVID money equals grant money. What was that cut? Let's see here. Go back to cut seven.
Okay, let me go back to cut 7. So let's go to screenshots. Let's
Tabitha
take that
Tabitha
one.
Bruce says actually three systems. That money was distributed between three systems.
Hmm.
So you see that the Bellevue water sector application, 75% federally funded, 26% local match. That don't sound like COVID money to me. I mean,
Federally funded, yeah, it's gonna 74% of it, I guess. I don't know, but it does say water sector grant. Maybe they're just generally calling it COVID. I don't know.
well, it's Mark Smith. We don't know who he is. He's anonymous.
But he
So,
he does seem to heavily favor the Bossier Parish Police Jury. That's
but
interesting.
but if you but if you've got this, I mean, 850,000. I mean, Ruttenbuck down in Bossier, he spends $1 million on a freaking single street in the city. How is $850,000 going to bail out a rural water system of 400 something people uh, uh, and split it three ways between three
Because
systems?
they're not using Manchac.
That
Sorry,
that's
I
the
couldn't resist.
problem, Rex.
Sorry, I couldn't
They
resist.
need They need Ben England. I mean Ben England. Ben England from AKA Manchac.
Eric. Well, they're almost as one. Ben England and Eric Ruttenbuck.
Maybe they're brothers. I don't know. One of them's got to be a king too.
Okay.
I know we got to quit because we may be losing some people here. But um, so Butch, he said, and he said it well. He actually did. I thought he did a good job. I'm not criticizing the way he did, but he said that the funds to do this project was a federal grant project, and that basically the federal government wanted local systems to all fall under one umbrella. They wanted a local government to kind of start taking over them and getting them, organized, bring them up, and improve them and get things kind of more orderly. And I got to tell you that it sounds reasonable. It really did. And we jumped ahead a little bit. And so he was asked, about what current plans did they have, to make changes to the system. And again, he said only thing they planned to do was just connect to it. That was it. They had no current plans, and that they were going to have to analyze it. Ooh, got way ahead. I want to point out that, all your police jury members, Doug Rimmer, Taxman Rimmer was there, John Ed Jordan, he was there. my police juryman, Mr. Phillips, he was up there. Cypress District Phillips, he was there. Is that his new name? Can we call him? Is that fair? Cypress
Yeah.
District Phillips.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And anyway, they were all there. They were in attendance. And I guess I don't know why. I mean, maybe that was to try to politic people into doing this. Now I'm going to go off on a squirrel here. So
Uh-oh.
as I was kind of doing some research, Rex, did you know that the police jury members, if they serve 2 terms, they can then like stay on the insurance of the police jury from like forever?
That explains a lot. No, I didn't know that. But that's very interesting. So, where did that squirrel come from? I mean, what brought that up?
Well, I was trying to go back. I was trying to find something in particular, and I just came across that, and uh, which it just jumped out at me, and I was like, because remember there was this debate about whether or not police jury members have retirement, and the term limits thing, and being in office for so long, and why do they fight and kick and scream about wanting to stay in office for so long and get up there and basically want to die up there. But then I found this thing. Well, maybe it's because they want to be able to stay on insurance. And remember that little lady with the dog stuff that they ran off, and
Right.
she was having some problems, I think, with being able to retain her insurance. I don't know how that worked out or not, but I mean, I'm not even talking about Cobra here. I'm talking about if they are 2 terms, if they want to continue to have insurance through the police jury, they can continue. I'm sure they got to pay for it, but they would
Right.
continue to pay for it as if they were an employee. Well, I think that
Well,
would be a different rate.
that does explain a lot. Well, it explains a lot when a particular jury member was seated too. Anyway, I'm off on a squirrel tangent with you as well. So let's circle this back around. So mysterious Mark Smith, boy, he sure does love the police jury. Says you just don't. Oh, I'm sorry. You don't understand. The police jury is acquiring Bellevue by paying off the debt. That is the cost.
Well, yeah, I mean, and he's right. No, I mean, I do understand that they are going to pay off the debt with whose money?
Yeah.
I mean, and this is a common question. It's going to be a question in another part of the show tonight.
Oh,
Whose
but it's
money are
federal.
they
It's
paying the
federal
debt off
money.
with?
It's federal money. Well, 70. What was it? 76 or 74%, whatever. But it's federal money, Duke. That just comes out of nowhere, which is kind of true because they literally have the printing press, and that's a whole different story. But it's all tax dollars.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So one lady during the meeting, she was passionate about, and I am not in no way, shape, form, or fashion minimizing what this lady, stood up and said. And, she expressed that she wanted a fire plug, in her yard or close to her house, like other parts of the system, because her and her husband had to watch their home burn down, and they lost basically everything they had, and that the water system didn't or couldn't provide enough water for their to be able to fight the fire at their house. They basically lost everything that they owned. And Butch Ford went on, and he said, look, he said, as the situation stands, to his knowledge, the majority of the system out there is comprised of 2-inch water lines, which I probably is the case. And he pointed out the fact that a 2-inch water line is not going to supply enough water to be able to have, any structural firefighting of significance. I mean, you want to, I think what is the old formula? Length times width times height will give you the cubic feet
All right.
of your structure, and then there's a formula to multiply that by how many gallons that you need. I used to have to know all this stuff. It's been a long time, but there's no way out of a 2-inch line that you're going to get, like, out of your water hose. I think it's like 5 gallons per minute. I mean, you're not even going to get close to a volume needed. A 2-inch line is not going to get even maybe 1% at best of
So
what's needed.
let me ask you this: what is a normal, like the firefighter hose that we see firefighters stretch out and all that? What size is that? A 4 inch or what size is that?
Inch and 3/4, inch and a half. The difference is in the type of nozzle, straight stream nozzle or, a fog nozzle, and that determines the volume. And determining on which one you should use is the type of fire that you're fighting. If you're going to make an interior attack, you probably ideally want to use a straight stream. But because if you use a fog nozzle, that aerosolizes it, and the water absorbs more heat, and then if you do that, you're more likely to burn yourself. So
Interesting.
anyway, but we're
Okay.
getting squirrels. Squirrels are
Yeah.
killing us tonight. So while this lady and what happened to them was tragic, and as
Right.
being a firefighter, a retired firefighter, and I seen that a lot. I seen people stand out as we got there, and their house just burnt to the ground. All their contents were gone. I mean, just even with being a class 1 and having fire plugs spaced out, you got plenty of water. I mean, sometimes things get so hot. I mean, there's not a lot to say, but I've seen people lose everything that they own. I mean, everything, even family members. Um, I know what she was talking about. I get it. But at the same time, I have to acknowledge and admit that I was sitting there and I was thinking that you live out in a rural area by choice, that that service is not there. I'm not criticizing her for at all, because I can tell you my mentality is I choose to live semi-rurally for a reason, and a lot of that has to do with government. And some people live even more rurally to get even further away from government. And if you want that service or that, I mean, it's a trade-off. You know that if you live out there, you're independent, but if you know that you want that service, you're going to move to Bossier City. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I guess living out in the rural area, what you're saying is you assume a certain amount of risk or higher risk with protection services, let's put it that way, typically provided by the government. And so, it's going to take longer typically for the fire trucks or firemen or firefighters or whatever to get out to you if you live in a rural area than generally if you live within the city. I mean, I know the fire department's less than 2 minutes from me.
I don't know what Mark Smith's talking about. He says, "Didn't you have a civil service issue with insurance, or was it retirement?" No, not a issue with either. I mean, Mark, I had insurance with the fire department while I was there, and then when I retired, I went on my own and personal insurance with my business, and no clue what you're talking about, bro.
All right. Speaking
So
of squirrels,
so people make a sacrifice to live rurally for a reason. And when we were talking about the the Halton tax millage or whatever, and the people voted against that out there. They didn't want double taxation. A lot of people have come out there and they wanted to change the dynamics of Halton, and they wanted to make it into the next Bossier City. And those are my words. That's kind of what I was thinking. They were wanting to make it, you know, and I think the same issue comes up here, that people, in a rural location, some people want the city benefits, and then there's a lot of people that don't want the city benefits. And I think that's what you see happening, is you're seeing a conflict between a lot of these folks.
interesting. And so let's see. Casey Wallace, let me put her comment up there. It's kind of a little bit long, so it may cover up a little bit of the screen. But she says, "Will I choose to live in an area where I have clean water, where I don't get cussed out by my water board members every time I have problems, or fire hydrants for fire protection, or up-to-date water lines that are up to code, but that's just me." So they literally like cuss you out if you have a problem? I mean, I'm not doubting it. I'm just asking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know how that would work for me. Water well incoming, but Anyway, so there was a lot of other folks that were complaining, and I think it was a valid complaint. There was people complaining about the water quality out there. In fact, there was one guy. I mean, look, Rex, he held up a dadgum water filter, and I got to tell you, this water filter looked like somebody was trying to filter out hot chocolate through it. I mean, I'm talking about like chocolate that was hot and melted. They were trying to filter it through this filter. It was disgusting. But I mean, I don't know. So Butch Ford went on to explain that, they had no plans to change anything immediately. And if they got control of that system, that, they would remain on the water wells as it currently existed and that nothing was going to change in the immediate future. And to Mark Smith's point that they were going to, pay off all the debt, one thing that Butch Ford did say was they were going to have an appraisal of the system. Now, he didn't clarify, and maybe I didn't hear it correctly or what have you. We got the audio, and I haven't listened to the audio again. But when I hear appraisal, I mean that, you're going to have an appraiser who's going to go out, look at the assets, value them, and then tell you what they're worth. And then, they'll report to you back how much the assets are worth compared to the debts or liabilities, and you'll have a number of the value. He said that. So to me, what the final numbers were going to be, that wasn't written in stone. It's kind of like Bossier City. The CEA says that the mayor is going to do the contracts, not what you voted on, that the mayor was going to initiate contracts. Well, the contract, you're giving him the ability to do whatever he wants to in the contracts. That's not the same as what was voted on in the city council meeting.
Okay, so educate me, and if necessary, we may have to have somebody comment. Educate me. Who owns the Bellevue water system? Is it like
I think
a cooperative type deal, or what is it?
I think it's all the people that live out there. I think it's the members of the system. They all own it. That's why they all have a voting rights. Tabitha Bruce says iron ore is horrible out here. Yep, I totally believe that, Miss Bruce.
She also, and I believe she's the secretary. I think she said that in a comment earlier. She says the customers do. So, yeah, I guess it's like a co-op type deal.
So I'm going to try to really run through the rest of this. Okay. So there was a lot more debate, and, some people, there was some dissension about the debt and the accuracy of the numbers and the financials as to whether that was accurate or not. Gray Kitchens, who was, mediating the meeting, he, entertained motions, and upon entertaining the motion, someone made a motion for Bellevue to join the Consolidated Water District. And there was a second. Well, almost immediately after somebody made the motion to join Consolidated and there was a second, somebody made a motion to table. Well, Mr. Kitchens, he jumped up and he said, hey, not right now. I'll allow that motion to be made in a little while. So more discussion ensued, and then somebody in the audience, everybody's kind of posing questions and they're talking, giving their 2 cents, and somebody in the audience during the discussion phase jumps up and says, I call the question. So then, somebody said, but what about the motion to table? Right. And so then Kitchens was kind of aloof. He wasn't really calling the ball one way or the other.
He didn't have his little Robert's Rules of Order playbook right there in front of him.
Obviously not. Or I don't know. But then somebody in the audience was saying, oh, wait a minute. No, somebody called the question before somebody made the motion to table. So you have to call the vote before the motion. Okay, wait a minute. I mean, look, with all due respect to everybody present and on this thing regarding a motion to table, if somebody makes a motion to table, and don't take my word for it, go look up in Robert's rules. If somebody makes a motion to table, you have to address that motion before you can get to the original motion. You can't just
Yeah.
ignore it. You
You
can't.
have to address the motion to table before you go back to the original motion, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's Robert's Rules of Order. That's I mean, I've found nobody to dispute that. In fact, I even after the meeting went to Mr. Kitchens and asked him exactly that. I said, Mr. Kitchens, I said, my experience with different boards and all that is that when someone that makes a motion to table, that the motion to table is the governing motion over the original motion at that point. Is that your understanding? And you know what he said, Rex?
There's no telling.
He said yes. That's what he said.
He
So
said yes?
he said yes. I got it on
So
recording. I got it.
so he just admitted Tabitha. Tabitha said, absolutely, we were done wrong. I just had the comment up. No, it sounds like he was trying to railroad you.
Well, wait a minute. So then, so Kitchens decided he didn't acknowledge the motion to table. I mean, they didn't even allow that to happen, and he went straight to the original motion to call for the vote, and so he ignored the motion. So right out of the gate, if he was the paid for parliamentarian, regardless of where you stand on the issue of joining consolidated or not, you got back. You didn't have good good advice here. You didn't have a
What?
good parliamentarian because he can't just
So,
ignore a motion to table.
so refresh my memory. Did the Bellevue Water System Board hire him, or did the Bossier Parish Police
They
Jury?
well, sources tell me the existing board didn't, but the previous board. And here's the other catch:
Okay.
the previous board, I learned, had all been the subject of an investigation by the Bossier Parish Sheriff's Office.
Huh. Funny how
Did you
that
hear me
happens.
correctly? I haven't heard anything about that. Now, from what I understand, they were all exonerated, but
Hmm.
from what I understand, one person, had passed during the course of the investigation. So whether or not there was anything there or not, I have no idea. I don't know, but I'm just telling you the facts. That's what I understood. So anyway, another dispute arose regarding proxies, and people were people were saying that there was one gentleman in the audience there, and I think he was a former board member. I think he had a little bit of a more of a role in all of this than what I know, but he was trying to advocate that the state statute governed this organization on how proxies were dealt with. And somebody from the board pointed out that, look, hey, we've got a set of bylaws, and our bylaws say this is how proxies are dealt with. Mr. Kitchens, in my observation, appeared to concede that the bylaws regarding proxies governed, and he allowed them. So the vote went on. They started counting votes, and here's where it really gets weird. So the voting began, and at the conclusion, Mr. Kitchens, he walks up to the podium, and here's what he says. He says, the board ignored my legal advice regarding the use of proxies, and therefore, by a vote of 40 something to 30 something, the motion failed. So he basically said, I told them to not count the proxies, and by virtue of not counting the proxies, you know, it the motion failed.
Hmm.
Now
So he
he just
gathered his
previous
he gathered his toys up and basically went to the house.
no, literally he closed his briefcase, walked away from the podium, and abandoned the business of the board and the business of the meeting, in
I
which
wonder if they prepaid him.
he was there and is their contracted attorney and was there to conduct the meeting. That's what he said in the beginning of the meeting. He was their parliamentarian and he was there to conduct the meeting. He was doing it. But it seemed like when it didn't go his way, he just abandoned those people. And as soon as he walked away from the podium, the room fell into chaos, and everybody was like, there was some people mouthing words at each other. You couldn't hear anybody or what have you. Well, I got to tell you, I was sitting there wondering whether or not did the meeting close? Is the meeting still ongoing or whatever? Well, I did find out that the board, one of the members of the board, stepped up and they dismissed the adjourned the meeting. But Greg Kitchens had not completely left the building. He was still standing over to the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked over, and everybody almost everybody there knew that I was Bossier Watch and amateur journalist, right? Kitchens may not have known, but I was listening to the conversation that was taking place. And that's when I said to Mr. Kitchens, I said, I asked him, I identified who I was, and I asked him about the motion to table, where he told me that, yeah, that's his understanding. And so then I asked him, I said, well, Mr. Kitchens, does the bylaws of the organization or state statute that was being cited govern on the use of proxies? He says, you'll have to ask the board that. So by him saying you'd have to ask the board that, I mean, I don't know. Are we to infer that he was saying that he was abandoning, his responsibility?
Sounds like he said he'd already been paid. He was done. He was going home.
So, yeah. So, now on Facebook, I saw where people, and I heard something to this effect. I did. And it may be on, my audio, but he was being asked from people there about suing the board. And if what was said on Facebook was accurate, he was telling them what they needed to do to sue the board. Well, but he was saying he couldn't do it because he was contracted by the board. Well, I get that, but man, that doesn't sound right. He's telling them how or what they need to do to sue the board.
He's literally drumming up his own business. Well, I guess if he's saying it would be a conflict so he couldn't represent them, but I guess he was hoping if they sued the board, he'd get more legal work by having to represent the board. Genius.
Well, no, I don't think he was seeking the business or whatever, but I do think it was not in good faith that he's telling these people. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
it's always about the money.
Yeah, but I don't think he was trying to make money. I don't think that at all. But I just thought it was in poor taste if he was telling them, "Here's what you need to do to sue them." That would have been in poor taste. And but I didn't hear the other part. I just saw the Facebook post regarding that.
Right.
But I did hear him say, I represent the board. I'm contracted by the board. I can't represent anyone in any suit.
Okay.
So I don't know. The takeaway from this is
let's summarize though. Did the board decide to sell out to the police jury or not? I'm still a little confused on that issue.
No.
What actually happened? Anything?
No. With the majority of votes with proxies against, they voted no.
Okay.
And anyway, my takeaway was that emergency money. I didn't think, look, all of these folks out here in Bellevue, they're all taxpayers, and whether they are on a water well or whether they are on the Bellevue water system, if they have an emergency out there and Homeland Security or who is the GOSEP guys or the parish or whatever decide that they're going to render emergency aid or help to them people out there, oh, by the way, after the fact, we're going to come back and send you a $77,000 bill, but only when we want to buy you out. I got to tell you, the smell test on that just don't smell real good.
That was almost like extortion.
I ain't saying, but I'm just telling you, I don't like the way that smells. It didn't smell good at all.
Well, you won't say it, but I'll say it. Almost. I'm not saying it is, but almost smells like extortion. But anyway. All right. So that's the Bellevue water situation in a nutshell. I mean, I guess what's next for Bellevue?
Well, I don't know. I think Bellevue, I mean, if I had any advice, I would say to Bellevue, maybe they ought to try to reach out to some people with, some subject matter knowledge. I don't know who, but maybe reach out and try to, get some advice on somebody else to tell them or give them some advice on what to do or where to go or what they should do. If they're wise, they would do that. And, I don't know. I mean, you're like me. I'm not one of those people to just give up. I'm going to fight and I'm going to keep going. And if they think or they have the will to fight out there, or they want to try to maintain their independence and try to get themselves moving in the right direction, hey, I support them. It would be real easy to just turn it over to the parish, but I got to tell you, I'm not convinced that what I heard was enough convincing to me for me to just roll over and jump on board with the parish. Would it be easier? Absolutely. And probably would the parish be able to bring more resources to bear? Yeah, I think they would. But in the long run, is it the only option that you have? I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know that.
Very interesting. Water problems everywhere. Okay, so circling back to water problems and circling back to the original discussion at the beginning of the show, because I assume we're through with Bellevue for now until something else happens, right?
Yeah, I think so. For all of you Bellevue folks watching, do y'all think that we have given a fair representation of the events that took place out there regarding your system? I mean, we've been accused of being uh, rebel rousers and purveyors of misinformation. I mean, I'm just wondering how accurate was the description of events so far?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're the rabble rousers that we are. We wear that badge proudly. Okay. So I want to circle back to the word chagrin, because I said we were going to circle back to it. Now, chagrin pretty much means embarrassment. I'm not embarrassed about anything. Maybe he was just referring to Jeff, but he did say the rabble rousers keeping watch on our city. Our two South Bossier residents on the council have made a decision that benefits Sobo and prioritizes our community financial growth for a change. Well, not much to my chagrin. How about yours?
Wait a minute. You said, well, there's a chagrin there. You said two South Bossier councilmen.
He's residents on the council.
I mean, I thought.
That's what he says.
Yeah, but there's not two South Bossier councilmen, right?
No, but they're residents on the council. I mean, both Chris and Hammonds both live in Sobo, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do.
Okay.
But, Chris is an at-large councilman.
He is, but he said resident, so we'll give him credit on that.
Sounds like Bo and Zeus are losing their minds. I don't know what's going on. Maybe the cat is torturing them.
Maybe so.
So, yeah. So, Rex, why am I holding this baseball, and why am I continuing to throw this baseball around? That's what I want to talk about. Why am I doing that?
Why? Why are you playing hardball, so to speak?
Why am I doing that? Because, the last thing I remember regarding the water, I mean, there was a last workshop meeting in Bossier, and we had did a show, we covered it, and we showed the video, and we were like, there it is. You judge for yourself. That's what it is. And we were done with it, weren't we? We were done with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they voted on it. They had the city council meeting. They voted to fund it. Whatever.
Was you chasing anything down on that? Was you going anywhere else with the water thing?
I don't think so. No. I wasn't. I barely had time to keep up with it as it was, much less continuing to run down something that's already been voted on it. But if timeline memory serves me correctly,
we weren't even doing shows because we were out utilizing our time knocking on doors for term limit signatures.
Which I must have a mouse in my pocket. I need to do more of because you and the Colonel have been doing the majority of that, but that's a whole other story. Okay. So, yeah, I think we were pretty much off the water deal as far as the city's concerned. So, what prompted the rabble rousing and blah, 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 and puff piece and softball and baseball and all that?
Well, I mean, there was this little article that was put out, and I can't remember exactly the
Yeah, Jeff's
terminology
article.
that was not Jeff's. Jeff
No.
put out an article, and Jeff sat out, put an article
Mhm.
out, and he made his say criticizing the decision for the city to go along with the port deal.
Right.
And he was very critical of Councilman Chris Smith. And, I got to say, I enjoyed his article and I thought he was on the mark. I did.
Right.
Did I say or do anything? No, I didn't. Then all of a sudden, there's another article that comes out. And this other article is, I don't know. I mean, you say rebel rousers, but there was another term that was used that I think was addressing us.
You're talking about in the Sobo opinion piece, puff piece?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
We called it the puff piece.
And let me say, before we go down this path, again, I am all for more people, whether I agree with them or not, all for more people doing exactly what Jeff and Wes have done, what John Settle does, and all that. I'm for more of it, not less. However,
Agreed.
we're going to talk about it.
We're going to talk about it. And if you're going to drag us into it, don't be mad when we respond to it.
Right.
And if you are mad when we respond to it, the problem lies with you, not with us. It lies with you.
Yeah.
So again, we were done with it, but now we're back in it. And it wasn't by choice. And I'm sitting here, not because I want to be throwing this baseball, but because some people choose to throw softballs. That's fine. That's their choice. But
Right.
I'm not throwing a softball. I'm throwing a baseball.
No.
So,
but let me just say this: I'm not even going to beat around the bush anymore. So we know why Councilman Chris Smith chose to go on the Sobo Live podcast, and they did a great job. Don't get me wrong, but it's absolutely they were not going to throw any hardballs at him. They were absolutely going to throw softballs at him, and that's fine. That's the route he chose to take. But all the Bossier politicians, as a matter of fact, any of the politicians, period, we have said it ad nauseum on this show over and over and over, have an open invitation to come on the show. We're not going to necessarily beat you up over something, but then again, we're not going to necessarily throw softballs either. And I've said it many times. I give credit to Robert Mills, Senator Mills. He's been on this show many times, and never once has he given us a list of things that we can't talk about. He's like, ask me anything. And I respect him for that, even though I didn't vote for him. Okay, so with my soapbox on that over, let's circle back around. Go ahead.
So I get a text. It says, name one time that Bossier Watch invited me to come on the show and referenced softballs. So I had to first, upon getting that text, I had to figure out what in the heck is being talked about here, because at that point I had no idea. I didn't even know. I was oblivious. Well, then once I figured it out that you had shared that post. I mean, again, but we don't share other people's media, but I guess you had shared it and
now
comments in there.
But we do sometimes share other people. We've shared Settle articles and Sadow articles and all that. So we do share other people's media. And honestly, it's for two reasons. One, because again, we're both for more people doing this and more people sharing information and posting about stuff and all that. And number two, because, hey, we have a great following of people, and it helps them by sharing their content on our page. Just like, the Sidewalk guys have mentioned us a couple of times as well. It's all in good fun. And helping grow the information share.
It is. And it helps get the information out there. It gets more of the information out there. But maybe we shouldn't, or maybe it shouldn't be taken as a shot. But obviously, it was personal because, so as a result, after this, I sent a text message to 3 councilmen, and I invited 3 councilmen to come on the show to address follow-up questions regarding the water. Not because I wanted to, not because I had planned to, not because I had any interest to, but because, we were being, misinformation, rebel rousers keeping watch. Maybe that was meant to be a good thing. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But misinformation infers that maybe, we were saying something that wasn't accurate or wasn't true. So rebel rousers keeping watch, isn't that us keeping watch? Rebel rousers, Bossier watch is
that's
that us? I think it's us.
I think that should be our new tagline, the Rabble Rousers of Bossier. Thanks, Wes.
So obviously we've got to respond. Yeah, thanks, Wes. So obviously we've got to respond. So I invited the 3 councilmen that arguably made the vote on the port thing pass to come on the show, and let's talk about it. We wanted some follow-up questions. So the first person that responded was Brian Hammonds, and he responded by text saying that he had an appointment with somebody showing a house. He was unable to come on the show.
Okay.
The second person was, Vince Maggio. He called yesterday evening and said that he had an arrangement with a family member that he couldn't come on the show.
Fair enough.
But Chris Smith hasn't responded at all.
I think he's mad at you, dude.
Nada, zero. Chris Smith is big mad, apparently. And
why is he big mad? We have said repeatedly that we're not carrying anybody's water. And look, the truth is, let me get back on my soapbox for just a second. Here we go. So, it's the old saying, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And here's what I hear, just as an average person listening to this. I hear, we're all going to make money. It's not going to cost anybody anything, and we're all going to be happy in the end. Now, that deal is too good to be true. And so that immediately raises a red flag for me. Look.
Well, you left out unicorns, fairy dust, and all the rest of that stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So let me Eric,
how did we get here?
Eric Ruttenbuck said in the April the 4th meeting at the Bossier City Council, he said, and I quote, they are primarily focused on water, blah, blah, blah. Let's keep the sewer in the deal, in reference to talking about running the sewer line along with the water line. Now, here's what I think is going on. Have you ever tried to get a loan or something like that, and you get a second job or second source of income just to get the loan, and after you get the loan, let's say it's for a car or whatever, well, you don't really care if you have that other job or not, as long as you can make the loan, make the note, right? That's what this deal sounds like to me. It sounds like the Port Authority is using Bossier to get this loan, because that's what a bond issue is. It's nothing more than a loan. Come on, people. So once they get it, and I think you've pointed this out on the show before, but water can flow 2 ways, and well, so can sewage. And the Port Authority is a big enough taxing authority that I just don't think they really care. Now, I'm just going to throw that out there. Now I'll get off my soapbox for a few minutes.
Okay. Well, let's start from the beginning. And I don't know completely how to unravel this thing, but I think we need to start from the beginning. How did we get here in the first place? And I think to get to where how we got here from the first place, we need to go to that first replay video. And at the 38:22 mark, let's start from right there, right out of the get-go. I already got it up.
All right, that's from the city council meeting, the April the 4th city council meeting.
So February the 21st at the regular Bossier City Council meeting, that is when I got it in the notes there, the first replay link.
Yeah.
So it was the first reading, and we're going to have a lot of questions here. So we couldn't get any of the councilmen. Brian Hammonds was a hard yes for this. I don't know that he ever wavered. Chris was back and forth, and Maggio was against it, then he was for it, and so none of them wanted. And anyway, let me back up. Hammonds had a prior engagement. He is right now meeting with somebody regarding a house. Still meeting with somebody. What time is it? Let's see.
8:30.
It is
8:37. It's supper time.
8:30. So he's still meeting with somebody regarding a house for an hour and a half. Vince is still dealing with some family for an hour and a half. And Chris Smith, we still haven't heard from.
He took his toys. He took his toys and went home. And we still like you, Chris. We just don't agree on this particular issue.
Well, we said when we did this, it doesn't matter if you're our best friend, whoever, it doesn't matter who, we're going to call it like we see it. And it's not that I like having to call this, but I'm going to call it, and I'm going to point this out. And there's going to be some things that we're going to point out here that I can tell you have not been heard in any of these meetings, some questions that have not been asked, that by not coming on this show, you're going to get the benefit of seeing the question so you can prepare an answer to be able to ask rather than being pure. And I'm not saying, anyway, we're just going to go with it. So are you ready here?
I think so. Hit play and let me see if the audio shows through.
I don't know if this
able to entertain that.
There we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been working on this, for quite some years. There's been a lot of effort put into this to simplify everything.
So we've been working on this for some years. My first question to Councilman Smith, Councilman Hammonds, and Councilman Maggio is, have you been involved in the CEA before this was brought here to this meeting? What was your participation in the CEA? Because you've been working on this for years. I want to know, what was your participation before then? What was your knowledge? When did you know about this before? So guys, see here right now, they get to prepare their answer for this.
Yeah. And look, let me just say, what's that pesky city attorney of ours' name? Jacobs? Yeah. Yep. We sent in a request for the information concerning these meetings, like it was only a few days after that comment was made. And so by my math, they asked for 30 days, and by my math, I think they're over their 30 days. As a matter of fact, way over. Where's the information, Jacobs?
So what I can... Yeah. So, I guess we can count on our at-large councilman, Chris Smith, or, Hammonds or Maggio to put out a statement or something saying about these previous meetings and all this activity that took place prior to this meeting, about how much knowledge and information they all had, because it's my understanding that they didn't. That they were actually, they didn't know a daggum thing. And I don't know, maybe one of the other councilmen that's willing to come on the show will come on and confirm that, in which we may have another councilman that's going to call in on the show here in a little while to actually back that up. But so let me jump here to the next little part.
And I'm going to get stuff ready
as
on
far
Art in
as,
case he calls in.
the payout, and the longer it goes on, of course, costs continue to rise. The port is anxious to have a secondary source for water for future tenants. It is, to me, of the utmost importance to get this done as quickly as possible. I guess a little without, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. We
Insurance money, is that what you're looking for?
workshops. We've talked about this. It's a win-win for the city of Bossier, the taxpayer.
Did he say they had had workshops?
All right. Yeah, hang on. Let's start it over.
I don't know what the word I'm looking for. We've had workshops. We've talked about this. It's a win-win for the city of Bossier, the taxpayers.
So we've had workshops. We have talked about this. I wanted to know from Chris and Hammonds and Maggio about the workshops. The workshops that in the first meeting, he said they've had workshops and they've talked about it. Well, I want to know when they talked about it. I want to know when they had workshops.
Right.
What is he talking about? We sent a public information request in, and we've gotten no response. So if everything is all good, then and according to the puff piece that I didn't hear that question answered about the previous workshops. And
I didn't even hear the question asked.
I didn't. So I'm just wondering, maybe we can get the answer to that, or are we going by the old Bossier transparency way of, well, we don't answer questions that we don't want to. I mean, look, it's 8:43. I don't want to keep beating, but I ain't got no choice.
It's 8:43 in America. Do you know where your councilmen are?
So where were these workshops and these meetings, and where was all this out? So let me keep going. 44.
I'm not sure what the questions on the formula. We passed out a sheet that shows you for each million gallons of water that are produced. And then at that point that we hit the 2.1 million debt service to the port, 100% of the water revenue comes back to the enterprise fund of Bossier City, which is the taxpayers' money. We know that we have to produce more revenue.
This thing won't stop. It's got a mind of its own. So I'm just wondering if the debt service thing, like Colonel Crockett went to the council meeting and requested, has been made available to the public. Has the debt service schedule been made available to the public? I didn't hear that question. I didn't hear that question asked.
No, but let me say this. If it went through the bond commission, which is through the LCDA, I can tell you that we can get that by requesting it, because I did the same thing with the Cypress District.
So, the king is saying, we know we have to produce more revenue. Well, I got a question. Why do we have to produce more revenue? The mayor in a previous meeting said that everything was great. And, Councilman Montgomery has said in a previous meeting that, because of past management, everything is sound. So I want to know, why do we need more revenue? If everything is all great, why do we need more revenue? Why do we have to take any risk? So somewhere in there they talk about, that our production costs have increased by 40 to 50%. Maybe that's part of it. What I'm wondering, has anybody asked what part of that cost is attributed to the fact that Manchac is in charge now? Have we analyzed that? I don't know. Nobody's here to answer those questions. I mean, and but I mean, I guess those are unfair questions, right? Everybody watching, is that an unfair question? Is having Manchac run everything, has that contributed to the need to produce more revenue? What specifically in our production costs has caused the increase from 40 to 50%? Does anybody know? I'm just wondering. So in the puff piece, Chris goes on to talk about the port, and how good the port is. And, he talks about, he cites Ternium, he cites Ronpak, he cites Pratt Industries as being, I don't know. I mean, I guess some of the standard bearers of the port or what have you. Well, Rex, go to cut 10, and I want to address, why is Ternium such a big deal? How has Ternium been able to be so successful down there? And I don't know if you can read that or not. It just looks blurry from my end. But
no, it's fairly clear. But anyway, you want to know the subsidy values for them?
Oh yeah, property tax abatement, tax credit. I mean, let's see how many millions here. 7, 8. I mean, arguably 9. I mean, $9 to $10 million in tax abatement there. Maybe that has something to do with their success.
And look, the truth is, plenty of companies get that.
Do you get that with your business?
Well, no, of course not. But not.
I don't get anything. I'm wondering.
Yeah, but I don't go out and whine and dine the politicians either and give them an insurance business.
That's right. Well, what about Ronpak? Because he named Ronpak as well. So let's talk about Ronpak. What do they get?
Well, they getting definitely north of $4 million.
Yeah, so somewhere between 4 and 5 million. You know, I mean, Michael Ferris, are you getting any tax abatement stuff? Are you getting anything? Barry Butler, or any of your businesses, are you getting anything? Womack, what about you? I mean, I'm just curious. Are any of y'all getting any of these benefits? No, I don't think you are. Yeah. So, all right, wait a minute, one more, Pratt.
All right, well, let's go to Pratt.
Well, look at there. They got them a cool 8.5.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm sure that was helpful to their bottom line. Now, let me play devil's advocate for a minute, though. And Ruth Pope Johnson, exactly where I was headed. So how many employees do these companies employ? And I guess by stretch, you could say at the port, too, although the port employees would be paid by tax dollars. And obviously not from these guys that are getting tax abatements and tax credits. But so let's play devil's advocate for a minute. Does anybody know how many employees any of these businesses have? So that we can kind of say, okay, well, if they employ 10,000 people in our area, and those 10,000 people are spending money and paying taxes arguably, then maybe the tax payment's justified. But does anybody know?
But Chris was jumping on the bandwagon in the Sobo Live show about the port and the virtues of the port and the economic development. And, I mean, I guess there is a debate to be had of whether it is or whether it isn't, a good or a bad thing. But one of the common themes, and I heard it said multiple times, I wish Chris was here. He's my friend. I wish he was here to debate this with me, but I can't help but believe, but he's not on here intentionally. I'm sorry. I got to say it like it is. I didn't want to be here. I had no desire to be here. This is not where I wanted to be, but I'm here. You know, he was pointing out the virtues of the port, and so go to cut 13, and I found this little study regarding the port.
Let's see, let me get this one out of the
And
way.
I'm building to the point that I'm going to make on this regarding the port and the port being such a great deal. And this chart here, this was a study that was done evaluating the port, and it was from 2016 to 2020. And it talks about dollars of port commission contracts and subcontractors by sub industry, and that came to the tune of $38,462,000.
Okay.
So go to the next cut and cut 14. And the point is, of all of that economic development, the $38 million, which you just saw how much of it is, well, the tax subsidies just to the three companies that, and I picked the companies that Chris named as he used as a defense on the Sobo Live show, or promoting the virtues of the port. Of that 38 million, only 81% of those monies are put into our local communities in Caddo, Bossier, Webster, and DeSoto. Only 81%. Basically 20% of it is going outside somewhere else. It's not even benefiting us here. So if we're going to be honest about the numbers, let's be honest about the numbers all the way. Right?
Right.
You with me?
Yeah, and I'm kind of honestly halfway paying attention because I'm trying to look up some employee numbers for those businesses real quick. But I'm with you, so go ahead.
So, my order of my cuts here are a little bit out of order, and
Okay.
and in the show, they were talking about on their show. They were talking about how Jeff Sadow in his article, it just wasn't true. $62 million. Jeff cited, an
Right.
ultimate debt of $62 million, and Chris said it just isn't true. It isn't accurate, and we weren't putting any numbers out there. We were silent. We weren't saying anything. We were, but Jeff put 62 million. Jeff's not a dumb guy. Jeff does his homework. He does his math.
Right.
And to say that they're just not true, I don't know about that, because okay, but let's say Chris is right. It's 52 million. Does anybody think that over the course of 30 to 40 years, you're not going to have operation and maintenance costs above just simply the cost of the debt service that we guess is the debt service of 52 million, because we don't know. Maybe they know, but we don't know, the public, because we hadn't been able to see that. Weston Marriott is chiming in. Maybe Weston wants to come on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. More than welcome to. So, let's see. Weston said 1,900 employees at the port. So, squirrel moment here for a second. So, is that 1,900 employees employed by the port itself, or is that 1,900 employees overall at the industries that are tenants at the port, or whatever they call them? So, can somebody clarify that? Because I actually haven't looked it up yet.
Well, so during the course of this thing, you had it in February, whatever, where it's the first introduction. And before then, I mean, King David said they've had workshops, they've all talked about it, but yet I haven't heard that anybody has talked about it or anybody has known about it, or I hadn't heard anything. But I mean, how long has the police jury? Valid question. How long has King David known about it? And additionally, how long has Manchac known about it? Well, that's one thing I can tell you for sure, because if you go to cut 15, let's look at the boring log on on the engineers report.
Yeah. Kind of hard to read, but that's looks like 5/26 of 2022.
Yeah. So May 26th of 2022, Manchac was already doing work for the port. I'm wondering, why did they not, in any of the council meetings, why did they not disclose to their employer, the city of Bossier City, or to Chris Smith? Me and Chris used to talk. I don't think Chris ever told me that he knew that in May of 2022 that Manchac was working for the port to do a water project for the city of Bossier City. I mean, again, if Chris was here, I'd ask him that question, but he's not here to answer that question. None of them are here. Not Hammonds, not him, but did they know or did they not know? And why did they not know? Did Manchac not disclose it to them? Didn't they have a right to know that? Or was only one councilman have a right to know that? And I'm just curious.
Well, and look, now somebody in the comments, you can correct me here or point it out to me, but it seems to me that before any employee of Manchac gets up there and is cheerleading for the port deal, they should disclose that Manchac has been doing consulting for the port for this water deal and therefore has a vested interest in the water deal moving forward. I mean, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but they should get up there and at least do the disclosure. And I don't think that ever happened. Now, I didn't attend I didn't attend any of the workshop meetings, but I didn't see it in any of the publicized meetings, so I could be wrong. So somebody let me know if I am.
Well, Weston, you did a good job because you've caused some conflict, for some folks that wasn't looking for conflict, but here it is. I'm a big boy, got my pants on, and we're dealing with it. So thank you. Appreciate it. So let's go to cut 17, Rex, and let's specifically talk about the CEA, and let's talk about the money. So 50% of all collections of revenue by or through the delivery of water. Rex, what is revenue?
Well, that would be, and they were real specific about calling it revenue versus income. So the revenue is going to be before any expenses, direct expenses or overhead.
Right, and income is everything
after direct expenses. And some companies, I mean, I'm no accountant at all, but some companies put overhead and expenses and lump them together.
So, Weston, maybe you can tell me, why did we not talk about revenue and the term revenue versus income? I mean, I do know, and in all fairness, you go on to read a little bit more, and it says, less documented treatment expenses. I mean, but revenue means the total cost. I mean, everything, less expenses. I mean, why would we have not just used the term income? I mean, I think that's a valid question that should have been asked. Let's go to the next thing. Indemnification, cut 18, Rex. Specifically the line where it says, the port will indemnify Bossier City except those resulting from the negligence of Bossier City, its agents, or its employees. Are they talking about Manchac?
Well, who else?
I'm wondering. I mean, because if Manchac, if they wouldn't indemnify the actions of Manchac, so if Manchac draws the plans on boring the river wrong and it fails, and they're going to say, well, no, Manchac was, doing the project on behalf of the city because you're responsible for, operation and maintenance and all that. I mean, it was your fault. No, and the city's going to say, no, it was your fault. You're engineer. No, it was your fault. No, it was your fault. You see what I'm saying here? Or maybe there's another hypothetical situation. Has anybody asked that question? I'm just wondering. I'm just getting warmed up here a little bit. So I'm just wondering also. I mean, I put a link, Rex, if you jump down just a little bit to the Muni code.
All right, yeah, give me just a second here and let me get that pulled up. Let's see, rate changes, Muni code, copy.
Dang it.
Give me just
I'd
a
already
second.
had it. I had already had it pulled up. But
yeah, I know. Well, you got to remember I got to manage multiple windows here. Paste and go. Okay. Let's see. Screens. There. Okay.
Yeah, so if you scroll down to section 114-3, service outside the city, guys, we're looking at the city charter of Bossier City here, and this is in the part about, water service outside the city. Section 114-3, A2. Now, I'm just wondering, yeah, it should be right there. I'm just wondering if this part 2 section applies. And it says that applications, and this is talking about service outside the city, water and other city utilities will be sold to properties located in the 5-mile radius adjacent to the city, wherein the MPC has jurisdiction under the following conditions only. I'm thinking the MPC, goes out that far, so I would think that this applies. It may not, but if it does, I'm just curious. This little section number 2 here, that applications for such utilities will include the property owner's agreement to annex his property into the city whenever the city council desires to annex.
That mean the will that's doesn't say shall. It says will or shall. Property owner's agreement to annex his property. So, in essence, the port is supposed to allow the city to annex that property?
Well, I think according to the charter, the city's supposed to get, with any application for water or sewer, that a property owner's agreement that they will allow the city to annex the property into the city whenever the city council so chooses. I'm wondering what the chances are that they're going to follow the city charter and do this.
Do that, annex that 2,000 acres down there and get it on the city tax rolls.
Property taxes inbound right there, baby. But I don't know. That was a question I would have liked to have asked one of our councilmen if they would have come on the show, but they didn't come on the show. So y'all have the benefit, councilman, to study it and decide, or you can just ignore me. Hell, I've been trying to get Brian Hammonds on the phone for the past 3 weeks, and he that's a sore subject right there. I'm very irritated about that one. So let's keep going. I got more. Let's go to cut 21, Rex. Got another question.
Hold on. Let me cut over there. Here we go. Drag in. Drop. Okay. Ooh, fixing rates. This sounds interesting.
Yeah, so this one really jumped out at me, and this is in the charter as well too. And that one little sentence down there, fixing rates, the city council shall, from time to time, upon the recommendation of the director of finance and director of public utilities, fix the rates to be charged for water and sewer treatment, which need not be uniform for all consumers, but shall be the same for each class of consumers. So I'm just wondering, what are all the classes? And I got to tell you, I've poured through, reading through everything, and I can't find but 2 classes. And the only 2 classes, and I even reached out to another councilman and I asked them, and they said they didn't know of any other classes, that they only knew of 2. And those 2 were in the city and out of the city. And
so,
according...
So wait a minute. Let me put this in layman's simple terms because I'm getting a little education here. Uh, so basically, there are only two types of water consumers or customers, let's say, as far as the city is concerned, in the city and out of the city, and that the rates should be set for each class, whether you're in the city or out of the city. And that sounds a little counter to what we've been hearing. Is like the cattle, is the port getting a special deal?
Well, I think they are, but think about it. You got in the city and out of the city. That's what is the published rates in the charter. I mean, and we can go back to that Muni code here in just a second, and we'll scroll down and I'll show you what their rates that are public. And I've asked if there's any other numbers anywhere else, and I've gotten no direction on any other numbers. These are the only numbers that I can find, and it basically breaks down into two classes: one in the city and out of the city. And let me pull it back up as well. I got it right here. So if you keep scrolling down, Rex, and you scroll down to section 114-4, and you keep going down to B, underneath that, you will see water charge. And under water charge, it says inside city, outside city, flat charge per 1,000 gallons. And you see inside the city, $3.03, outside the city, $4.55. That's outside the city. Those are the numbers that have been discussed. Now, Chris, incorrectly was saying 425, on his interview last night. And, I don't think it was an egregious mistake, but the numbers, this is the accurate number. It's right here in the charter, 455. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something that's not distributed to the public that he knows, transparency wise. If it is, maybe he can help the public get that out there. But
Wait a
455
minute.
is the actual number.
Wait a minute. They're selling the water to the port at how much per 1,000 gallon, according to the CEA?
Okay, well, here's the thing. It's that's the number you see there, the outside the city, 455 minus, their cost. And their cost, a general figure is $1.25, $1.50, or something along those lines.
Right.
Then the remainder per this agreement, as Chris said on that show, is a cost share agreement, a profit sharing agreement. Right. The profit is everything above that $1.25 number or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Above the O&M cost, which they're saying is $1.25 or whatever that is. But I don't see. I mean, how do they get around the fact that nowhere in the code does it say anything about being able to do a cost sharing and take out for costs?
Stand by.
Okay, we have inbound text messages. Let's see. All right, so Michael Ferris brings up a valid point, says, Duke, you've repeatedly railed about city councilmen not being on your show, but you were not at the workshops, and that would include me too, city council meetings, or even at the Sobo luncheon where you could ask questions. I love you, brother, but you're beating a dead horse. That's a valid point.
Oh, Michael Ferris, perhaps I was too busy knocking on doors for term limits that would benefit who?
Or the same city councilmen that showed up for the photo op but have yet to get their shoes dirty knocking on doors. Those city councilmen? Or did I just say that?
Love you too, Michael Ferris, but one human can only do so much at a time. And why show up at the council meeting when I can sit there and I can watch it and report on it and take notes while I'm at it? I mean, I may go there to the city council meeting and, how many times has Settle been berated by people there at the city?
But But you are correct, Michael Ferris, and we have said repeatedly, we have not been at the meetings. We report on it here. So I can go back like show after show after show after show where we say the same thing ad nauseum. All right. So, are we reading inbound breaking news or what? Wait a minute. Julie Ferris brings up a good point. Does the fact that Altimus and Bigby being executive director and vice director of the port have anything to do with this? Surely not, Julie. Wouldn't have anything to do with it. It just couldn't. That would be too much of a coincidence, wouldn't it? All right. So, it just seems to me like maybe they're...
Okay. So, here's the deal. Chris texted me, and, I told him, I said, look, come on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So, he agreed. He's going to come in. So, I'm going to...
You got the link, or is he going to call in?
No, I got it. I got to see, that's what I like. A real debate.
Yeah, so let me, I'm going to switch us over to this and this, and we'll do this and that. Okay. So, stand by, please, while we bring in a guest.
Okay, well, I can't, for whatever reason, I can't send the link.
Here, I can text it to you real quick.
Yeah, send it to me if you don't mind. It won't let me, wait a minute, maybe this will work. Hang on, stand by. All right, folks, sorry for the inconvenience. All right, there. It is sent. He's got the link.
Okay. So, we'll wait patiently. All right, Jeopardy music. Okay, so Michael Ferris says, you're right, Duke, but that door swings both ways. Well, it does swing both ways, Michael Ferris, but, the city councilmen don't have a Facebook Live and YouTube Live show for us to go on and be part of their show. It's actually the other way around. All right, Barry Butler says, this CEA is a roll of the dice. It may work out. You're right, Barry. It may work out, and everybody will just be smiling all the way to the bank, a la CenturyLink Center and the boardwalk. So we'll see how it all works out.
I hope that Chris can come on here and hit all these questions that we've asked. I do, because I want to know, and I'm not done. I've got more questions. All right, that link didn't work, so
I just sent you one.
All right, send it again.
Send it to you again?
No. We're good.
Okay.
So everybody watching, we appreciate y'all hanging in tight. Sorry, this is kind of on the fly, and again, like I said, didn't want to be here in this thing, but and we were moved on from the water thing, but I hate to say that we got called out. Did we get called out? We got called something.
We got called Rabble Rousers. Again, I liked it. Rabble Rouser fits us perfectly.
Well, I do.
So,
I do
so
too.
Wes, if you're still watching, we like the Rabble Rousers. Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can get... Let's see. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, and can everybody hear Councilman Chris Smith okay? Let us know in the comments. Make sure his audio is coming in okay. All right.
Well, I guess so. All right, so Chris, you big mad at me, huh?
I wouldn't use the word mad, but I do feel like a shot was taken that was unnecessary. I was given an invitation to come on another show that is not named Bossier Watch, just to pick up my phone one day and see that I'm playing softball, and I didn't think that was a very fair characteristic.
Well,
You got
in
my
Did I
phone number.
did I
Call
do
me at
did
any
I
time.
do did I do that?
in fairness
Did
to
I do
Duke,
that?
he didn't make the post. I did.
Uh, one and the same.
That's fair point.
Fair
Okay.
enough. That's true.
All
And
right.
so that's why I responded back to you, hey, come on the show. Got you know, you got to come on the show. And I didn't even know the circumstance completely at that point. But here we are. And then when I finally read it and I see that the Sobo Live guys, whether it was a shot or whether it was not, I don't know. I don't know what the definition of rebel rousers were, but you know what? Rex said it's a term of endearment, so I'll take it that way. But still, you're on the other side of the vote and on the water issue. I'm still on the other side of it. I'm not convinced that it was the right deal. I acknowledge I don't know for sure that it was the right or the wrong deal. I don't. I still don't I don't think that we're going to know, but I still think that there's questions out there to be answered that are unresolved. And so that's why I wanted you to come on the show, was to let's resolve those questions. Hammonds, how long have I been trying to get him on the phone?
Uh, Not sure. I mean, I guess I think you told me about a week ago you've been trying to get a hold of him.
Yeah, I have. Go ahead,
Now,
Rex.
yeah, so in Hammond's defense, though, he's been pretty much a cheerleader for this project, I think, from the get go. So, I mean, his position hasn't changed. But I'll fire off the first question to you, Chris. So, in the council meeting where y'all approved the deal with the port, you had made a motion, I think, if I remember correctly, was it to table or to delay the vote or whatever? And then you just didn't follow up on that after Queen David got up on his soapbox for a while. What happened, or why did you want to try to delay the vote again if you were for it, as you, I think, stated on one of the Facebook posts? If you were for it before the meeting, why were you going to try to delay it again?
Yeah, so good question. I had an opportunity to meet with Eric England and the port director one on a Friday afternoon. Um, and he disclosed some information that I had him asked him a few questions and had him disclose some information at that meeting that I thought was pretty important information. A few things that he was willing to do to make some of the other council members a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, I thought if they had more time, another 2 weeks to mull over this, maybe we could have a more unified decision. Ultimately, I did not get a second on that motion, so the motion died for failure to get a second, and then Councilman Williams called for the question. So we went ahead and went with the vote and the motion in a second that was on the floor.
Okay, fair enough. Duke?
Well, I know when I seen Councilman Williams call for the motion, he was just ready to be done with it because he was disgusted with it. I mean, because I think one of the things he said before was yeah, that's the way it always is. We don't always have the information. It's after the fact, or kind of. I mean, did you not sense that feeling from him as well too, or we don't know? I think it was in regards to the debt service schedule, because I think he may have asked if we had that, the same thing the colonel had been asking for. Did you not sense that either?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I did, and I think that's a lot of people's frustration. And if you watch the Sobo.live interview I did last night, and I would say I don't think it's a fair characterization to say that was softball, because they asked me some very interesting questions that I wasn't necessarily prepared to answer. Um, and we had good dialogue. And if you have been a part of any other speaking engagement I've done after this vote, I have said countless times how Bossier City has got to get out of the business of making deals and reaching these agreements behind closed doors with just a few people, a few select people that get to be in the know, and then throw it out to everybody else. I've been very consistent on that. It's one of the things I campaigned on, that I wanted to help bring transparency back into Bossier City, so that wasn't happening. And again, this is just another situation, but the fact of the matter is, it happened. They have had discussions about this project for years now. Um, and it was thrown into our laps, and we were trying to digest a lot of information very quickly. And I still stand by the decision that I made.
So, and to be
So,
part, well, let me hold on a second, Duke, if you don't mind. But let me be clear that I haven't kept up with the city council meetings for the last several years, other than where we've been covering them on bossierwatch and every once in a blue moon. So this project has been ongoing for years. Do you know? Because we asked for the information, and we're now well over the 30 days that the city attorney requested to provide that information. So, how many other meetings are you aware of as a city councilman now? Did they have on this issue? How many other public workshops or public meetings was this discussed in? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't. And, I don't. I was not. I have not been a part of any discussions. I do know that it has been going on for years. I can at least date this project back to prior to me being elected in March of 2020 or 2021. Um, and so, I mean, I can at least date it that far back, but I don't know, and frankly, that's an issue all in of itself. We're here, I think, to discuss the merits of the CEA.
Duke, you're up.
well, that and I want to know one more thing. When did you on the council? Because I kind of got a couple of different uh, ideas on that. But when did y'all learn that Man Shack was working for the port? Wasn't it in the first workshop after the first introduction?
Yeah, I mean, I, obviously, I knew when I knew about the project. So I think it's important to note that about a year ago, the council did pass a resolution, doing a feasibility study of this. Was this possible? So clearly, all the council knew that this was something that was in discussion, something that we were talking about and thinking about. Clearly, was much further down the line than some of us realized. And So I think it was reasonable to assume that Manchac was a part of it, since they are the contractor that runs our entire public utilities department. Now, did I know at the time that they were the head contractor of this project hired by the port? No, I didn't. I just learned that, as you said, in the first workshop. But I mean, it's reasonable to assume that they were involved.
Let me ask you this then. Do you think that that's a conflict of interest at all? I mean, because they're literally working for something, they got both sides of the coin.
Yeah, sure. Yes, I do think that that were some concerns that I raised, and I do think that it is a conflict of interest. But at the same time, they are a private sector company that bid a job just like any other private sector company can bid a job, and there's nothing in the law that says they can't do it. So, um, you know. Uh, they're playing within the rules that are set there for them.
Yeah, I didn't accuse them of doing anything illegal, to be clear. And, but I just think it should have been at least disclosed that, they're making out like bandits, which is fine, whatever. Duke?
Sure.
Well, I mean, I don't know that we don't know that it's not an ethics violation. They are an employee of the city. I don't know. Maybe that you do know. Has there been a request for an opinion on that you know of from the city?
Not that I'm aware of.
So, I, Rex, I want to move on to the one thing in the charter, and I can't remember the exact section. I think it was chapter 21 where it talks about rates, specifically regarding the CEA. And where it says fixing rates, the city council shall, from time to time, upon the recommendation of the director of finance and director of public utilities, fix the rates to be charged for water and sewer treatment, which need not be uniform for all consumers, but shall be the same for each class of consumers. What are the
Hmm.
classes of consumers, for water? Because I only read, and I've asked someone else, I only read there to be two classes, and that is in the city and out of the city. What am I missing?
Yeah. Well, no, and I think that's right. I also think if and of course I don't want to be quoted on as this held to gospel, but I do believe if you scroll down to that part of the Code of Ordinances, you will see that it is separated by residential, commercial, and industrial as well. So I believe that you have three classes within inside city limits and three classes outside of city limits.
All right, so Michael Ferris has a question while Duke's looking that up. He says, Chris Smith, during the Sobo luncheon, you stated there was transparency related to this project and the workshops demonstrated this. How many workshops were there and how many were you personally involved in?
Yeah, so there were two public workshops that were publicly advertised, and you two will know this fact to be true, but we don't generally televise our workshops. But these two, well, while they weren't televised on cable, they were live streamed on our YouTube channel, and then it was discussed openly in not one, not two, not three, but four city council meetings at ad nauseum. And so, this particular agreement had lots of public discussion, and quite frankly, there seems to be a lot of people who have strong opinions on this, and you know I can only think of one person out of all of those workshops that got up there and spoke. And they never really spoke in favor or against, they just asked questions. And I can think of maybe two people that sent me an email to my city email, which, as long as I've been in this job, I have very publicly disclosed how you can get a hold of me. So, plus it's on the city's website. So, three folks that reached out to ask questions or give their opinion, and then after it's over and done with, now we have lots of opinions on the matter. You know, we can be upset with our government if it doesn't make a decision that we want it to do, and that's fair. But we need to be involved in the process if we want to try to have some type of accountability as well.
Well, I agree with you 100% on that, and credit to the city council for streaming both of those workshops. I would argue that you guys need to stream every workshop, even if you don't televise it, at least stream it to YouTube, because, I mean, basically there's no cost to that. And you are correct, and we have preached ad nauseum on this show about people need to participate more and go to meetings more and all that. I mean, you have something about dog catchers and everybody shows up to the meeting. You do a $50 million deal, and, well, nobody shows up. All right, Mr. Lowry.
Well, so on the Sobo Live show, you went in detail and was talking about the numbers, and you cited 425 per 1,000 gallons. Uh, Correct or incorrect?
455, I've been informed is the correct number.
Well, okay. So 455, which is even better for that side of the argument.
Sure.
But so then I think you cited, what was it, $1.25 in cost,
That is our average O&M cost right now.
right? And so you subtract that out, and that leaves $3.30, right?
Mm-hmm.
So $3.30, and then the deal is it's a cost sharing, or a profit sharing. We're gonna split that 50-50, right?
Yes.
Does does anybody else, any other customer, get that benefit, that will get the same or gets even close to the same amount of water from the city of Bossier? Does anybody else take water to that tune? I mean, to that amount of water?
No, the not even Barksdale Air Force Base is buys the amount of water that the port is anticipated to buy, and it's not even in the same ballpark. The numbers that they're anticipating buying uh, rival what the entire system is already doing.
But that's best case scenario, correct?
Correct. Best bet. So their goal is to get to 10 million gallons of water a day within this 40-year CEA. That is the ultimate goal. If they do everything correctly and they are wildly successful and they fulfill the mission that they set out to fulfill, they will be purchasing 10 million gallons of water a day. Currently, the city of Bossier, including Barksdale Air Force Base, is purchasing about 12 million gallons of water a day. So their goal is to eventually almost double our current amount of water that we sell per day.
Well, I'm told that Bossier City pumps 8 to 10 million gallons north, towards Benton. You probably don't know whether that's accurate or that's inaccurate, but if in fact there is 8 to 10 million gallons pumped north towards Benton, where, to all the places that it would go north of Benton, you know, all of those people aren't having to build any pipelines. Shouldn't they be getting some benefit or not? Shouldn't they be getting a decrease or the same rate that maybe somebody at the port, that maybe's getting?
So what I hear you alluding to is that the port is somehow getting some type of special rate, and that's not the case. The port is paying the exact same dollar amount that any industrial customer in North Bossier Parish and South Bossier Parish, East or West, it doesn't matter. They are paying the same rate, or will be paying the same rate that any of those other customers are paying. Um, the customers that are currently buying water from the city of Bossier that live, say, in the parish, that infrastructure was built and is now owned by the city of Bossier. So that is our infrastructure there, and that's why we're able to serve those customers with water.
So at the end of the quarter, will they get the 25% rebate?
Well, is Mr. John Doe having an economic impact on the city that the port is having, and are they buying 10 million gallons of water a day? I mean, you're not wanting to compare apples to apples. You're talking about a residential customer that buys several hundred gallons of water a day versus an industrial park that is going to be buying millions of gallons of water a day.
But if it's 8 to 10 million going north, and it's
And
simply
and, and
the
it's And it's
go ahead.
also important. It's also important to note that those customers in the parish, the city has already burdened themselves with the cost of those water lines. This water line, the city is not having to bear those costs, and so while we've already bared the cost for those water lines in North Bossier Parish and South Bossier Parish, where we sell water outside of city limits, in this instance, we are not bearing that cost. So if you want to look at it that way, this revenue share is our investment into that.
So, I heard on the show last night, y'all, I mean, and to the credit of the folks in South Bossier, I'm happy that, you would have growth and things would, but it makes me wonder, you know, why have we not annexed everything between Bossier City and Benton and Burt Boulevard, Brownlee and
You're
Burt
right.
Boulevard? Why have we not annexed it?
You're
What's
right.
the answer?
And me and Councilman Hammonds have, excuse me, we have been very large advocates for annexation and going ahead and bringing them into city limits. There are needs. Obviously, you need to hire more fire and police. You'll have to put another fire station up that way. Eventually, if we go any further north, we're probably going to even have to maybe look at a police substation. But so you have that cost, right? Then you also have the cost of, you're going to be taking on the ownership of those roads. So now we're going to have to bring in more roads and more sidewalks into our master plan of how we're going to keep up with those. So there's cost associated with that. You don't just annex in and it's there, but I do think the city has had a very slow, controlled growth up north, and I think that we would be wise to accelerate that. Just like I think we would be wise to accelerate the annexation south once we start to see the fruits of the port project come to fruition.
Okay, so let me address a couple of points. Speaking of annexation and land, so Shane Cheatham, former Amigo, was responding to Barry Butler. Says the port has purchased land on the Bossier side as well for future development. And I think we've heard, what was it, 2,000 acres or whatever the port's purchased, or maybe that's on the Caddo side. But anyway, Greg Bell says, let's see, hold on. I did a land check on ownership on the Bossier side and did not find anything near that the port had purchased yet. Can you clarify, or do you know in any of the meetings, have they actually purchased any land on the Bossier side yet or not?
Yeah, the port does own land. Now, if you were to ask me exactly where is it at, I couldn't pinpoint it for you, but they do own land, and they are also looking aggressively to purchase more land because their desire is to expand to the Bossier side of the river.
All right. And there's a couple of questions here, a little bit of discussion about Barksdale and Shreveport water versus Bossier water. And so Kenny Parr says, doesn't Barksdale get water from Shreveport? Mysterious Mark Smith says Barksdale buys Shreveport water. Are they still buying Shreveport water, or is Bossier the primary source? Can you clarify that?
Bossier is now the primary source for Barksdale Air Force Base.
Okay. Thank you.
We said that on a couple of shows ago.
I know. I'm rolling through the comments here. Okay. Yeah.
So
go
Chris,
ahead.
I want to go back to the annexation stuff. So it wasn't. I don't know if you maybe you were, maybe you weren't, but remember they were proposing the Walmart up there off of Wimple Road, right?
Right.
And the council voted to annex that Walmart in the city. Why did we vote to do that? Why did we vote to do that and not say one of the subdivisions right beside it?
For the sales tax revenue, I would assume.
Well, doesn't the residential area promote the sales tax revenue?
Well, the property tax, yeah. Uh, that great question. I obviously wasn't on the council when that happened, and then the Walmart ended up not happening. Now we do have a nice, beautiful Brookshire's there, but the city has slowly started creeping and annexing itself up north. And eventually, we are going to make our way all the way to Burt Boulevard, but And I agree with you. I think the city should move at a faster pace. But you also have to keep in mind, like I said earlier, there are costs associated with that.
Well, don't put me out there just yet that I think it needs to move at a faster pace, because the reason I make that point and I ask that is because, I mean, isn't our general fund in Bossier City, isn't it strapped? Isn't it tight? And it's pretty much the tax revenue that's keeping us afloat in Bossier City. Because, I mean, I know you have to your credit, you have talked about, the debt burden in Bossier City. I mean,
Hmm.
so I'll say it again. Our general fund, it's tight, and pretty much our sales tax is what keeps us afloat. And is it accurate that we have to have $1 million a year in new sales tax just to pay the bills and keep the lights on? Is that all correct or incorrect?
I think it's a little bit of both. I wouldn't say that the general fund is tight. The city historically has always run under budget. So far this year, I think we're running around 13% under budget, and so I wouldn't say that it's tight. Now, are we spending money in places that we probably shouldn't be spending money from, or we ought to really look at that? Yeah, I mean, when you look at where we get our debt payments from, and those different types of funds, yeah, you want to look at that, because I do think that those numbers are a little bit high. But I think it's a unfair characteristic on our finances to say that we depend on sales tax to grow just to pay our bills. I don't think that's accurate. But now the last question, we need $1 million. So I would say that our budget grows about another million to $1.5 million every year, as we have uh, more money that we're having to dedicate to retirement funds, insurance costs go up, overall legacy cost of having an employee. Yes, that budget increases almost every single year by about $1 million. And so there is going to come a time where we're going to have to make tough decisions on where we're going to get that money from, because sales tax has been up now for 5 straight years. We're 8% over what we were last year. Last year, I believe it was 13% over the year before that. Then, of course, we had the big COVID year where there was lots of government stimulus money in the streets. And so we've had a very steady, strong climb in our sales tax dollars. Um, I think it's safe to say that we're going to hit a recession this year, and probably a pretty strong recession. So we'll have to see where we're at. But I do think Bossier City's finances are in a good spot. I don't think that we're anywhere where we need to panic, if that's what you're asking.
Well, the direction I was moving towards was that, the growth that we're going to have if the port is down there, and you were bragging on the port, and the port, you know arguably we could go through, yeah, there's a lot of jobs, but I mean, if I had all the money in the world to give out to people for free to promote somebody to come here, I could have a ton of people. But I'm just saying, rooftops aren't going to pay the bills for the expansion. It's going to take the city annexing business, which was the case in the Walmart, because if it was
Right.
rooftops, we would have done annexed every rooftop between here and Benton. But we didn't do it because it won't pay the bills. But if the port is running the show south of Bossier, what are we going to annex to be able to pay for that expansion? Where is the money going to come from? That was the point I'm getting at in my question. you know, that is a reservation I have about the deal.
So you have a reservation about how the city's going to annex South Bossier Parish?
If the port,
I guess I'm
if the
I guess I'm
port,
not I'm not understanding your question.
if the port, is bringing business down there, and the port
Hmm.
is giving them all these rebates, there's no taxes to be gained off of them because they're giving away the farm to get them to come here in the first place. The only thing you're going to be left with annexing is the rooftops. Well, if rooftops doesn't pay the bills, where's the money going to come from to add the fire station, to add the policemen, to add the sidewalks, to add the street lights? Where's that going to come from?
Well, I mean, I think we can both agree that that should the port be successful and create the jobs that it aims to create, and I think that it will. It's going to bring more. It's the need for more rooftops. When you have the need for when you have more rooftops, you have the need for more commercial. So, right now, yeah, if you're looking at Highway 71 around Taylortown, well, yeah, Brookshire's on Barksdale Boulevard isn't that far of a drive, but how far south do you go before that is a good little drive, and another grocery store has to be added or another restaurant. Look, South Bossier, from once you get to uh, really Shady Grove Boulevard. I mean, it's very light on the commercial industry south of Shady Grove Boulevard on Highway 71. So there's going to be more development because there's going to be an absolute need for it. Right now, there's not a huge need for commercial development. Because you have Airline Drive in Benton Road. You jump over the Jimmy Davis Bridge to the Erie Drive corridor, and that's enough. That is enough to handle the rooftops that we have with the commercial that we do have. But as you start adding more rooftops and you start adding more businesses, you're going to have a need for more commercial industry. And so, I don't think that they're mutually exclusive of each other. I think that as one grows, the others are going to grow as well.
Uh, And I haven't paid close attention to it, but how much residential growth is there around the port on the Caddo side in South Shreveport? I mean, I know,
There, there's little to none. Because I mean, look at where the port is in South Caddo Parish. I mean, it's along the river. There's no place for residential growth. Now you have residential growth and down the Florida Lucas and Ellerby Road area, sure, and that area is thriving and always has thrived. I mean, I think it's safe to say, and I don't even think this is debatable. That part of Shreveport is what carries the entire city of Shreveport as far as property tax is concerned, and probably even sales tax. And so, yeah, that area of Shreveport thrives. Um, but I don't, I'm not saying that South Bossier Parish is going to become the next Ellerby Road in Flournoy Lucas area. I don't think that the two are really connected in any way. Um, I think that Bossier is a little bit unique in that if it does develop around where the port is wanting to expand in South Bossier Parish, the residential and the commercial developments are going to be closer to it just because of the way our land is laid out down on this side of the river.
fair enough. So, in any of the workshops, which granted I didn't attend, but any of the meetings or other discussions, have they given an estimated number of jobs that they're going to be able to I hate to use the word produce, but produce by this expansion of the port down there and this access to the water?
Yeah, so there's two big companies that they're looking at, and I think that if the port were to land just these two, it's already well on its way to achieving its goal because I think uh, both industries would employ somewhere around 500 employees each, I believe is the number that was stated, and both businesses would consume about 1 million gallons of water a day. So those are the two big fish that they're looking at. If you look at the current port, they have some large businesses. So Ternium USA employs several hundred people, but then you have Sports South, which is a much smaller company of maybe 150. So I don't think I think it's going to be mixed use, and so you're going to have some of your big fish, but they're going to go out for those small distributors and manufacturers as well.
Right. Duke?
Well, I've been listening to you two go on about it. So what? I done lost my place. I don't even know where I'm at.
It's okay.
I didn't. I didn't even want to be here on all this, but here I am.
Well, I mean, I certainly have talked about this project more than I desire as well, but I do think it is important that the accurate information gets put out there. Um, and so, which is
Okay,
why I
wait a
was
minute.
willing to
Wait a
come on
minute.
here.
Wait a minute. What inaccuracy have we put out there?
Well,
Don't hold back. Don't
I think
hold
we've
back.
covered a lot of it, but I do want, we can address the elephant in the room, if you will, and that is the how much money is Bossier City on the hook for? That keeps getting thrown around very loosely, that we're on the hook for $62 million. And that's just not based in fact. It's not fact, and anybody who's listening to this can take solace in that that is not a fact.
Okay, so interesting you should mention that because Jeff Sadow just commented, said, according to England's statement in front of the council, 28 million 30 years at 4.95%, 7 million 20 years at 0.95%. Future value of both equals 61.2 million plus underwriting equals 62 million. That's the math. So just to pay that off, you would have to produce 11 million gallons a day from day one, unless you want to give back the so-called profit when it drops to 5.5. But why do you do this when you already have the capacity to do this without the new facility? So is his math wrong? Because I don't have a
Uh,
calculator in front of me.
Look, I am the last person that you want to ask about math advice to, but I will say that I believe that that those two bonds are blended together to have a lower interest rate combined, and so I do believe that the yearly payment is 1.695 million a year in principal and interest. So you can multiply that and come up with your with the number, whether it's 62, 52, 102. it, it's not dead on the city's books, and the city, the chance that the city is the chance that the city is going to pay that entire dollar amount, as Mr. Sadow just put forth, is very slim. They're going to have to come on day one buying a lot of water and keep that momentum for the full term of their debt service. So if they do, hey, that's great. Bossier City also put a lot of money into its enterprise fund, but I don't think that that's based in reality. But what's being missed here is the number that $62 million is going to be paid from Bossier City no matter what, and that is the part that is not true. That continues to be misrepresented. If we build this water line and the port never buys a drop of water, the city of Bossier pays the port $0, zero, not a dollar. If they, let's say they're somewhat successful and over the life of the loan, we pay them $10 million and then the debt is retired. Bossier City's not pulling out its checkbook and writing another check for 55 million. No, if that's all they water they purchased was enough to make them $10 million, that's all they get, not a dollar more, nothing. So we have to stop telling people from Mr. Sadow to KSLA to Bossier Watch to any other news organization. Bossier City is not on the hook for $62 million. Now, if they purchase enough water to receive $62 million in profit share, then yes, we are on the hook for that. But you know, that is I hope they do it because that will be very good for Bossier City, but that's not the expectation.
Yeah, I mean, they could just get the loan deal, not buy any water, and go in the water and sewer business themselves, correct? I mean, it's a possibility, just like the possibility of them buying $62 million worth of water is.
Sure, and it's a possibility that I'm going to hit the lottery tomorrow. Everything's a possibility, you know. And I've heard that maybe they'll get into the water and sewer business, and heck, they might. Who knows? But I don't think that that's a business that they want to get into because that's going to come with a lot of overhead costs that they don't currently have. And as long as that water line is tied into Bossier City's water system, we control it. And that is another point that's being missed in all of this is that we control, as long as that line is connected to our water treatment facility, we control it.
Yeah, going one way, but not necessarily
You,
if the water is
well,
flowing the
you
other.
can yeah, you control it so long as the water's flowing north south. But if the water's flowing south north, you don't control it.
Sure, but I don't. The city of Bossier is not going to be purchasing water from the port. We clearly have enough capacity to provide our own water needs,
Well,
and
well,
so
that's not
That's
what I'm
not the
saying.
point.
Yeah, that's not the point. What I'm saying is if nowhere in that CEA does it say that the port can't use that line to send water the other direction. I mean, unless I missed
To
it, I
other
don't think it does
customers.
say that. And if at that point it happens, you have no control. I think that's a fair statement, right?
well, where would the water come from?
Well, I'm playing
So
hypothetical. I
they
don't
would
know
have to be.
this.
So as long as the water is coming from Bossier City's treatment facility, we absolutely control it and control who gets that water. So
Correct. Agree with
in
that.
this scenario, the port would have to spend another hundred and something $1 million, build a facility, hire employees and buy chemicals and have all the startup costs. I mean, you're talking probably 150 to 200 million dollars in
Hmm.
upfront cost uh, to do something like that, and then have the responsibility of testing that water, dealing with Department of Health. Once you get, I promise you, they don't want to get into the sewer business. Take it from someone who has who's this represents a city in the sewer business. That's not a business you want to get into. Go ask the Bossier Parish Police Jury if they regret getting into the sewer business. And so,
I agree with
sure,
that one.
in some fantasy world, maybe they do want to sell water and build their own treatment facility. I don't see that as a reality, though.
Well, I'm thinking maybe they need to go hire Mancheck. I'm thinking they need to go hire Mancheck.
All right. Any other questions for the councilman?
I'm all ears,
Well,
and I truly, I mean, throw them at me.
Oh, I'm trying to
well,
go back through the
Jeff
comments real
Sadow,
quick. Go ahead, Duke.
Jeff had a reply. Jeff says, Chris, with all due respect, read the CEA. The total payments by Bossier City to the commission shall not be less than the principal and interest payments made or to be made by the commission on the bonds described in section 1.02.
And I would say to Mr. Sadow, who I think is a very intelligent person, by the way. But I would tell Mr. Sadow to look at the title of the section in which that sentence is located.
And what is that title?
The title is prepayment of debt. So that sentence is in a paragraph that is if the port and the city of Bossier get together and say, you know what, we're going to just go ahead and pay this debt off early. And we're just going to go ahead and stroke a check and pay it off. We don't want to carry it for 35 years. We're just going to go ahead and write the check right now. Well, then, yes, in that case, if we were to cancel and retire the debt early, we would be responsible for the entire amount. That would require not only two votes of the city council and be signed by the
Wait a
mayor and
minute.
subject to
Wait,
veto.
wait a minute. Chris, Chris. I thought we didn't have any debt. You just said we had debt. Correct me.
No, I'm saying that if we want to retire the debt, talking about the port's debt that they are taking out. If we decide with
Okay.
the port that we want to retire that debt early, and Why would we retire that debt early? Maybe they're buying 10, 12, 13 million gallons of water a day, and there's a lot of money to be made, and we just want to go ahead and retire it so we can keep 100% of that revenue. There are a few scenarios out there where financially it would make sense, but it would require two votes of the city council, that would be open to veto of the mayor, and it would take a vote of the port's own commission. So it would take both bodies coming together to agree on that. Now, the Bossier City Council has a hard time agreeing on much. Do you think that it's going to agree to go ahead and stroke a check for $60 million? No, I don't think it's going to happen. Is it a possibility? Sure, it's a possibility. But you're going to have to convince four people to look at the taxpayers in the eyes and say, this is why we think it's a good idea to write a check for $62 million. That's going to be a hard ask, and so I think it's a very unlikely scenario. But sure, there is a reason why the city would want to do it if the project is successful enough. So yeah, there's that clause is put in there, but that is if the debt is serviced, if the port's debt is serviced over the entire life of the debt, then we're only responsible for paying 50% of the net revenues of what is purchased.
All right, good enough.
Well, I only got one more question. In this, maybe you may have saw it, you may not have saw it, Rex. I think it was cut 21.
See if I can switch back over
No,
to it.
not cut 21. Actually, it was in the Muni Code where it says that the applications for such utilities will include the property owner's agreement to annex his property into the city whenever the city council desires to annex, to any delivery of, utilities outside of the city. Do you think that will be a portion of the charter that will be applied to this deal?
I think it's going to be hard for us to annex something that's already in city limits of Shreveport.
Is the port in
So
the city limits of
now,
Shreveport? I didn't know that.
and I'm sorry, but I have to move over here to a cell phone charger because my battery's about to die. Um, uh, So I think. Oh my goodness, look at this. I think that would be a hard part to enforce with the port being in city limits of the Shreveport area. But what's important is a lot of people keep talking about what happens if another entity outside of the port hooks up to this water line. Well, there's a very real possibility that if that entity is in Bossier Parish, then yeah, they're going to go ahead and sign their waiver, giving the city permission to eventually annex them in if it so desires.
All right. So let me hit the right button, I hope. And so, got to put it up here. Jeff Sadow put up another comment, said you forgot to read the phrase before that, notwithstanding the foregoing, meaning it applies globally, not only to that section. So we're still on the CEA deal. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't think that we're going to know for sure. Maybe you can say for sure. I'm not where I can say for sure that I have 100% confidence in this. Um, you know, I think I'm told, and I don't know for a fact, but I'm going to verify these numbers. I'm told that there's 8 to 10 million gallons that go north towards Benton, and that to me is a measurable amount of water, comparable to the port. That if we're going to send water south, you know, at a discounted rate, that and you can say that it's not discounted. Well, I'm sorry, we are discounted at least for 30 to 40 years to pay for their water line that they're going to own. We may or may not have control. That's debatable. But I also think We are Bossier. We should be about Bossier. We just talked about a water system right here in Bossier Parish, the Bellevue water system, that's having a hell of a time. We've got water to spare, and they've got problems. And I I could see a lot of systems that could benefit from Bossier City. And I'm not saying that's your responsibility, Chris. I mean that lies
Well,
with some other folks, but I think we should probably look out for the other folks of our parish a little bit.
Well, and I don't disagree with you. And part of why the city of Bossier, when it built this water treatment plant, and look, I wasn't on the council back then. Um, you're talking over a decade ago. But one of the goals of building a plant this size, it was to help alleviate stress in other parts of our area. And so, I mean, look. I don't know where you're getting the 8 to 10 million gallon number from. What I can tell you, based off the water sewer report that I have seen, that our water treatment facility is selling an average of 12 million gallons a day. So that's everything that's coming out of our water treatment facility. Now, how that's divvied up between the parish and the city and residential and commercial customers, I couldn't tell you what that number is. 12 million gallons of water a day with a treatment facility that has the capacity to make 50 million gallons of water a day. So look, even if the port is just somewhat successful, 1 to 2 million, maybe even 3 million gallons a day, we're at 15 million gallons of water a day. If they're super successful and hit their 10 million gallon mark, we're still only at 22 million gallons of water a day. There's still plenty of growth. So yes, we can take care of not only Bossier City but Bossier Parish. And I think that we're getting caught up, I think, a little bit in the fact that the port is physically located. The 2,000 acres is physically located in another parish. But let's not forget that this is a Caddo Bossier port. Okay, the parish of Bossier benefits just as greatly as the parish of Caddo from the port. And so, and I said this on Sobo Live last night, that you look at a private company looking to invest $220 million of their own money, not a single penny of taxpayer dollars, their own money, $220 million to build a toll bridge to connect South Caddo Parish and South Bossier Parish. I tell you what, that's a business owner that probably knows something that I don't even know. That's a business owner that knows something that neither of you know. That you don't put that kind of money up unless you're confident that there's going to be growth in South Caddo and South Bossier Parish. And so, that gets. I would argue that this is a small investment into Bossier Parish and South Bossier City's future growth and future development. Now, look, if it's not successful, I will be happy to. Let's see, where will I be in 20 years? I'm 35 now, so I'll only be 55. I'll still be young, but I might have to come visit you two in a nursing home, huh? I'm just, I'm
Well,
just kidding,
that's why we're
just kidding.
trying to we're trying to get that
But
HB
right. But I'll be
291
happy to
passed.
have. I will be happy to have this debate if I'm wrong, and I hope that the same can be said for you guys. That if it turns out that you're wrong, that we can still come back and say, you know what, it was a good idea. I'll eat it if it's a bad idea, but I fail to see how the city has any real risk, because I will respectfully disagree with Mr. Sadow on the amount of money that we're obligated to pay. That was something that I went and made sure that I got absolute clarity on, not just from the Bossier City attorney, but asking people that advise me personally, and reaching out to other attorneys that the city contracts. And so, I'm very confident in the decision that I made, in this. And so I would say that that the risk to Bossier City is very, very little, but the benefits are exponential. And so, I hope that when it's all said and done, we'll be able to look back and say, you know what, all that arguing we did was kind of silly because look at Bossier City now.
BossierWatch sponsored by Depends
Yeah,
Undergarments
but
and whatever else. 30, 40 years in the future, we'll be
right.
discussing this
Yeah,
with no teeth.
but you know what, Chris? But you know what, Chris? This is what's good about it is we're freaking talking about it. Before now, in Bossier politics and Bossier business, was there any of this dialogue? There was none of this dialogue, none of this
No.
debate. And that's what this is supposed to be about. Is it's supposed to be differing opinions, and you haggle things out. You may not come to a complete agreement, but no matter what, at the end of it, iron sharpens iron, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't think that there's, I think that it's living in a fantasy world that you're going to always agree with people. There's certainly people close to me in my inner circle that I ate lunch with today, and we got into a pretty heated discussion on politics, and so I consider all of those guys very close friends, but we got into a heated debate over politics. And so, I think you're living in a fantasy world if you say you're always going to agree with somebody. But, sorry about that. All you can, all I can say and all I can promise is the same thing that I said and promised from day one. That every decision that I make is going to be based on homework, good discussion, and what I think is truly in the best interest of Bossier City. And so I think that I've done that here, and I think that I will continue, and I know that I will continue to do that. And I agree with you. The dialogue is fantastic. We haven't always had it in Bossier City, and it's. I think we're finally starting to get somewhere with this whole transparency argument.
Well, and I just want to say this that,
Agreed.
the Sobo Live podcast, Wes doing his articles, the two guys on the sidewalk down there, that is all welcome dialogue to us, whether we all agree or not. And I appreciate you coming on the show and answering the questions that we asked.
Yeah, and look, I just wanted to be known that no, Chris wasn't mad. Chris didn't have sour grapes, but I'll take that back. Chris was mad, but Chris wasn't just because I felt like it was unfair. I felt like that if you guys would have asked me to be on the show, I would have come on the show. Another organization asked me, and I took their request for it. And so I'm open to talk to anybody. My cell phone number is literally everywhere, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it for everybody who's watching. smithc@bossiercity.org is my email. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, and you can't make it to a city council meeting, you can at least email me. So smithc@bossiercity.org, or my cell phone number 318-840-1504. I'm one of the easiest people to get a hold of. And if I don't answer, I will call you back, or you can shoot me a text, or you can Facebook me, whatever your preferred way of communication is. But I think that it's important. And I think that's why I've spoken about this at the Sobo Luncheon on Sobo.live and now coming on here, is I just want to make sure the facts are out there and that people, you can like or hate the CEA, but at least know what the facts are, and that the facts are on your side when you're arguing it.
Ruth Pope Johnston says, Chris, thank you. She kind of a long comment, but she says, thank you. You have represented the issue well. At the end of the day, it's still a gamble. But she hopes that we can all win and hope that the business does come. So, and look, I just want to say this, a softball comment. I hope it got y'all maybe one or two more views on the Sobo Live video. It's kind of a marketing thing.
Yeah.
All right, Duke, you got any closing comments for our councilman at large?
Nope, nope. I'm glad that he came on. I mean, you know, hey, where's my baseball at? Hey, I got my baseball, and I had to give you this baseball. So I don't know. Is Chris Smith the cockroach of the week because he came on the show? The other councilman, they tapped out.
Yeah, we'll have to
He
make
came
him
on,
the cockroach of the week in a good
and
way,
and
as a positive thing.
he knew this was not going to be any love fest. He knew it straight up, and he walked right into it.
Yeah. So, kudos to you, Chris.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. If you need anything else, just give me a shout. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think we have almost set a new record, or maybe second place. We're at 3 hours and 15 minutes. I think we've been longer, though.
Yeah, I think so as well too. I am glad that Chris came on.
Yeah, he's a
He
good
did do
guy.
a good job. Well, no, there's no doubt he's a good guy, and there's no doubt any of his decisions he didn't have the best intention in mind. I ain't never had a doubt about that at all. But I mean, I don't know. I can see why he would get mad, but he shouldn't have got mad at me because of you. But I'm
Hey,
married to you.
I didn't just throw you under the bus. I literally dragged you under the bus and got out of the way.
No, you tied me to the front bumper and you stomped on the damn gas pedal and was just dragging me underneath
And,
it.
and then just got out of the way and let him run over you 2 or 3 times. No. All right. Well, Mr. Lowry, I probably won't get the podcast version of this ready. Probably not till in the morning. And I've got to do the last show. I forgot to do it. But it's been a pleasure again. And hey, we've had 50-something people watching for 3 hours and 16 minutes now. That's awesome.
Hopefully for now, this is put to bed.
Yeah, at least for a while till the next controversy comes up anyway. All right. We appreciate everybody watching. Y'all folks know the drill. If you have any email you need to send to us, keep it anonymous if you want. Go to protonmail.com, make your own account. Don't put any identifying information on it. Connect using a VPN if you want to. Send an email to bossierwatch@protonmail.com, and we do take a look at those. We appreciate everybody watching. Check out our friendly sponsors and business and all that sort of thing. And if you feel like donating, go to bossierwatch.org or bossierwatch.com. It doesn't matter. There's a donate link if you want to, or you can buy a coffee mug or whatever. Blah, 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 blah. We're out of here.
Hey, thank you, Wes Marriott. Appreciate the compliment. Y'all go watch Sobo live.
Yeah.
Gave you a plug.
Yeah. All right. See y'all later. And Eric says, great show, guys. So, yep. See you later. Appreciate it, Eric. All right. Talk to y'all later.